The other piece, I would say, of good news is the commitment that we did in New York, just to recollect together, it's called Transforming Access to Water by Strengthening Capacity of Operators Closest to Water Provision. And we here as an alliance, so not just the Secretariat, but with our partners, many of you here today, committed to engage at least 100 more public water and sanitation service providers to sign up for peer exchange and support by 2030, with the expectation to reach an estimated 100 million people. So no lack of ambitious goals, and reaching such goals by 2030 is only possible by advocating for the enabling environment component to make sure that we can scale up water operator partnerships. Maybe just to sort of wrap up, we received very positive feedback about the first dialogues. That's why we're having this third one. And part of what we would really want to hear during the discussions this afternoon is the ways to continue these discussions. This is a loose forum. You know, we're not creating a task force through those of you here, but we would really like to hear how we sustain the momentum, the dialogue. The main objective of the afternoon is really exchange between you and to facilitate that. So any ideas of how to do that more, better, differently, we really welcome. And I also wanted to share that as a global alliance, of course, we also see a lot of countries and utilities beyond Europe in other parts of the world that are also ready to look and consider and see how to advocate for more enablers, let's say, of the WOPs. And so moving forward, we would be interested both to have this dialogue with wider set of countries, whilst we also recognize that the commonality of some of the legal and financial instruments makes it very useful to have the European-based group together like this. So we would probably be going forth in different ways, you know, beyond this dialogue today. So I think that's what I want to say, not to take more time. I want two pieces of sort of, let's say, advocacy from our side. If you're not a GWOPA member and if that's something of interest, this is a good time to sign up, and we have a team for that. And also we're gearing up for our GWOPA General Assembly, which will be held in Cairo in November this year. So again, some of the thinking that might come up in our discussions here might lend itself to think about what we would do there, and also at the World Urban Forum that will take place from the 4th to the 8th of November, led by our home agency, UN Habitat, that is facilitating GWOPA. So I think that's just to kick off. I want to thank Julie for leading this program, and also for Anne Lestrade, who has been helping to organize together with Franzi. And we have several colleagues that is also working more in the back end to make sure that this is working smoothly despite these snowstorm warnings. So many thanks, especially Kathy, Kanok, and Edith, and as well Ashmeet and Kennedy online in Nairobi. So let me hand over to Julie with those words. Yeah, over to you. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Usa, so much. Let's see how this works. Make sure we can move to the next slide. This one. Yeah, I think it's okay. I think it just takes a second to appear. Are you seeing the agenda? Nope. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay, so whoops, I was too quick. All right, just to take us through the agenda briefly. So we're here. Thanks for those of you in person who came a little bit early to have a late snack and discuss before starting the meeting. We're now on the third item already. For those of you online, where I will be giving you a short framing presentation on the enabling dialogues and the objectives of today's session. Before we jump into this exercise of mapping financial and legal mechanisms around Europe that we've embarked on, and Lestrade will be giving an overview of that exercise, the results we've received so far, and then we'll be complementing that with a tour of Europe, getting inputs from different countries at different levels on how WOPs are being funded and supported by legal and financial mechanisms in their countries at country level. We'll have a coffee break so that those of you online can have a half-hour rest and then join us again for a plenary discussion. First a discussion on the a tool that GWOPA is finalizing on WOPs funding that will be presented by Maria Pascual before we move into a plenary discussion. And for the plenary discussion, it would be great if everybody online wanted to, join with their cameras, be very visible so that we can reduce the, online, offline division. And also in that effort, you'll see that people in the room have little stickers on their with their names on it. It would be great if everybody did that because it allows the people online to know who's speaking also, and this avoids us doing a whole round of introductions, although we would have liked to do that, but for the sake of time, we've cut over that. So please put on a sticker. And so this is the overview of the program before we wrap up and close. For those of you who've been able to make it in person, we will try to have a short outing. We'll brave the snow and maybe grab a drink around the corner if you're up for it. We'll tell you more about that at a coffee break. I just went back. Let's see if I can go forward. Here we go. Okay, so to make sure that we're all in the right place, very brief background on what WOPs are and why we're here, very briefly. So we're talking about WOPs, Water Operators Partnerships, with the core of GWOPA's work. Essentially, these are not-for-profit partnerships that happen between water and sanitation operators or utilities, and that are carried out in the objective of strengthening capacity to sustainably provide quality services to all. We've highlighted sort of key definitional characteristics of WOPs. It's very important that they are not-for-profit instruments, that they take place between peer utilities where there's a particular ability to exchange on technical and related skill sets. And they're really about sustainability. They're meant to last, provide lasting change and contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals. So capacity is really central to WOPs. The idea is to do with, not for. And this is the sort of crux of the Global WOPs Alliance, the work that we do and the work that we're here to discuss today. We just need to be patient as we move to the next slide. So GWOPA is a global alliance that was set up, as Osa reminded us, 15 years ago, actually, this month, to scale up impactful water operators partnerships. And we work by enabling this practice, guiding and mobilizing efforts towards WOPs. We're a membership network. This is something that is relatively new. We didn't work this way in the past, but in recent years, we've decided to formalize this membership, and that's why we're on a membership campaign right now. So we do encourage you to become members. It's basically joining this effort, this global movement to support WOPs. And the secretariat is led by UN Habitat and hosted by the government of Germany here in Bonn. And our overall goal is to scale up effective WOPs, so making sure that WOPs are contributing to the water and sanitation service providers' improvements to the SDGs, and that this effective practice is scaled up globally. So why are we gathering here today? Why this subgroup of GWOPA members and stakeholders? This is called a European WOP enablers, and just taking us through each of the terms. We're talking about European with a small e here. We're not talking about political boundaries. We're talking about the continent of Europe. So we have, the UK, we have Switzerland here. We're talking broadly about European, gathering. So there's no hard boundaries in our definition of the term, but just a group of countries that are closely connected and that share a lot of common political and cultural traits. We're talking about water operators partnerships, as we just mentioned, but WOPs, which have different WOP and WOP-like activities, let's say. So what we noted in our survey, and we'll be looking at this briefly later, is that many countries are doing WOPs, but not under the title of WOPs, particularly in non-Anglophone countries or countries where English is not readily available, French or Spanish. They're not necessarily referring to these activities as WOPs. So just to make it clear that this is a broader, it's not a trademarked practice. It's a broad approach with these key characteristics that might have different names. And we're looking at enablers, and what we mean by enablers are those who are actively practicing or supporting WOP activities. So this includes the utilities that are involved in Europe, mostly as mentors for the WOP practice, by and large as mentors, but also those who are supporting, so the governments at different levels, the financial institutions, civil society organizations, and others who are involved in making it possible for WOPs to happen, making sure that there are the capacities, the funds, and the resources mobilized for WOPs. So as Åsa has highlighted, GWOPA is a global initiative, and we tend to do things with as many regions as possible, but occasionally we meet on a regional basis because there are particular kind of characteristics that make it more useful to have an exchange at that level. So the reason we've been meeting over the years as European institutions around enabling WOPs are because of the way that Europeans tend to relate to WOPs, particularly as mentors. So as practitioners, they tend to participate as mentors by and large in the practice, as funders, and as advocates. Just some key sort of data on that. More than a third of the WOPs that we have in our global database are led by European utilities. Within the EU WOP program that went out a few years ago, 80 of the 142 proposals were led by European mentors, and there are many more European institutions that were involved in those proposals. So there's a very strong engagement by European utilities and other supporting partners. And the WOP practice, we could say, really originated in Europe. There was a very strong some precedents in Northern Europe, and they continue to be real champions of the practice. And then, of course, funding the European funding is extremely important. Approximately half of global funding is estimated to come from European sources. Some of the major global WOP initiatives, like Waterworks, the German Utility Partnership initiatives, and EU WOP, this is all funded from European level or national level within Europe. And almost all Western countries, as we've revealed through our recent survey, have some sort of mechanism in place to facilitate WOP funding. And European actors have also been really important WOP advocates. So there's a long-standing history of Europeans promoting the WOP practice at the global level. So this is not just for within their own country, but also within the UN Secretary General's Advisory Board, which initially set up GWOPA. It was chaired by the Prince of Orange for a time. So there's very strong history of this kind of support and advocacy from Europe. And civil society and other financial organizations are both involved in using WOPs and supporting WOPs for various of their objectives, for supporting improvement towards the human right to water and sanitation, and improvements within utilities. So this is why we're meeting as a group of Europeans today, and it's not to the exclusion of these discussions on other regional levels and at the global level. So we've been having this series of dialogues amongst enablers within Europe, all of you here in person and online, with the objectives of, first and foremost, sharing and learning from one another. The idea that one country can pick up a lot from what another is doing, one region, one utility. There's a lot to learn, and that in itself is an important objective. But we also want to build strategies together, and so the end of today's session will be focused more on how we can work collectively to make this more possible in order to do more and more impactful WOPs together. Over the past many months, we've developed some products. This enabling WOPs. These materials are available here. At least you can download them by scanning the QR codes over there. And we have held 2 dialogues, this being the third one, as has outlined. And I just want to say that these gatherings achieve things, that important things. They're not just these tangible outcomes or events and reports that I've mentioned, but they lead to political action and decisions that lead to more WOPs that make more impact on the ground. So that these smaller informal meetings before we started talking about a dialogue, basically European actors getting together and talking about how can we get more Europeans involved in doing WOPs and supporting WOPs? How can we get the European Commission to support and fund more WOPs and make sure that they're happening on the ground and they're making a real impact. So there's a real history of results coming out of these kinds of gatherings, and so we hope that we can achieve more of those through this meeting today. We will, just to keep in mind, we'll be coming back to this later, but the idea is also to keep in mind how we can best mobilize European actors and resources towards the WOP practice and impact. And we of course want to learn how we can learn from one another, but also what we can do together. So thinking about different knowledge products that could be helpful, events, and above all, advocacy that we can do collectively. So that's the introduction, and I'd like to now hand over to Anne Lestrade, who will take us to the next piece of the program, looking at the mapping exercise that we've undertaken. Over to you, Anne Lestrade.
Thank you, Julie, but I think you need to give me that. Right, thank you, Julie. And good afternoon for everyone. So the survey on water operators partnership. So maybe you, other way. So as you said, Julie, we have already, so this dialogue, and as you said also, Osa, this dialogue is the third one, and we have already worked on many issues regarding WOPs. This report you can show on the screen. I wrote that based on the contribution by José Luis, and we have already discussing and analyzing the enabling and limiting factors, the legal, human resources, funding, and we wanted to go further, and after staffing resources focused on legal and financial issues. And for that, we decided in our objective to map legal and financial frameworks for WOPs. And as I wrote, is a work in progress. We wanted to conduct a survey. Maybe you remember that during the previous European WOPs enablers dialogue, it was raised by many participants to have a better understanding of the frameworks for WOPs and to have a mapping of legal and financial issues. So it was like a request by participants. So we decided to conduct this survey. So the main objectives are to identify the enabling and limiting factors for mentor utilities and to better understand how to overcome the constraints. So today is I would like to share with you the initial outputs, result during this session, but I would like to highlight that it's an initial, a first step, and we would like to complement these outputs with additional inputs to finalize this exercise, and these inputs will be given by you in the hop-off tour just after this presentation. Big time to do. So the first outcomes of the survey. First of all, I would like to thank all the respondents, of course. We have around 20. We have a very large spectrum of profiles, so coming from ministry to utility, national association, so very, very diverse. So thank you very much for having for your time spending in this survey. And to be honest, it's a very interesting first step, but it's quite fragmented, in information. So it's not so easy to have a comprehensive analyze and synthesize of the outputs. So maybe we don't see the last part of the slide. So I hope that in the tour, just after in the discussion, you can complete, the information already given through the survey. So we have a very wide variety of legal and financial context, of course, but you can guess that, with different model of international partnerships, but with some convergences. I hope, yes, we can see. So it's a screenshot of the survey. So I just select some question to highlight something, and I choose the first one. So first of all, it's interesting because some respondent reply that they don't have WOP. But when we go through the survey and when we discuss with them, we realize that there are some WOPs. So it means that maybe sometimes it's a question of definition. But I think there are much more WOPs than we think. And utilities operators and other entities do much more WOPs than they think. It's interesting that the first response for this question is a promotion of WOPs. So maybe we can go forward about what does it mean, promotion of WOPs, because it's promoting by legal and financial factors, but also maybe by other national strategy. Wait, okay, it takes time. Okay. So legal, see this question. So it's a policy, legal, institution frameworks. Legal, you will see in the reply that legal and financial issues are strongly interconnected. So many answers, responses, sometimes, interconnect and mixed legal and financial issues in the response. But we see that half of the respondents say, yes, we have some legal and institutional framework. And 5 say, I don't know. So I don't know, what does it mean? It means that maybe there have maybe not enough also knowledge among the institution, even among the stakeholders in a country, to have a good understanding about legal frameworks. what funding mechanism do utilities in your organization have the opportunity to benefit from to engage in WOPs? So, okay, in-kind staff contribution is the first reply. And if we see also the utility on operational funds, so the first one, in cash or in kind. So what does it mean? It means that it depends the great deal on utilities, also on operators. Of course, we have a large spectrum of funding mechanism, decentralized cooperation, EU WOP, national funding, water fund, customer donation. But it means also that we can mix, and many operators mix different kind of mechanism to implement a WOP. So there is not a single reply. But once again, it means it depends a lot on the willingness and the availability of the utility and the operator to implement WOP. So the two other questions I selected say, based on your experience, rank from most to least significant barriers from European utilities to engage as mentors in WOPs. And the other one is the same, say the same boxes, is the drivers. So if you rank from most to least significant barriers and drivers. So the lack of awareness or understanding of the opportunity, the lack of know-how, legal and institutional barriers, lack of political and public support, lack of funding, unavailability of adequate human resources, and administration project management burden of WOPs. And they don't match fully. We see that, of course, the lack of legal framework is a main barrier. The founded, but of course, for some countries which have a very strong and useful legal policy to implement WOPs, the legal and the funding also are not an issue. So the drivers and the barriers something are mixed, and I think we need maybe to go more in details, and especially in the second part of the discussion. And based on your experience and your backgrounds, really how I would like to know more about the main barriers and the main drivers. I think the survey, the initial outputs of the survey cannot give a relevant response on that. So I would like to conclude by we would like to complete this survey to have a final report to be included in the final report. And for that, we discussed that the opportunity to give you all the participants, maybe other stakeholders, a week or more to complement after this session, and we would like to have a more detailed information on the European and the diverse European context, and we encourage you to submit from the survey. And we will give you, of course, in a final version and very well designed, the main outcomes and how we can build on that, and how we can maybe implement a collective strategy to advocate WOPs in our countries. Thank you very much. And it's okay. Franzi, Lindsay, for the
You go.
hop on.
Yeah. Thanks, Anne, for the survey results. I need the clicker. Yeah. Next on the agenda, we have an activity, let's call it, called the Hop On, Hop Off WOP Enabling European Tour. First of its kind. And I will let you know how it goes in the next hour or so. I'm waiting to click because I see pictures are taken of this slide. Yeah, for your reference, this is the hop on hop off bus in Bonn. It's a classic tourist way of exploring a city, mostly in Europe, and it has different quick stops. So this is what we'll be doing in the next hour. We have many highlights from different countries in a short amount of time. I will have the role of your bus driver with a schedule to keep. And you will be the tour guides. So wherever we stop, we have prepared an itinerary of 11 countries, and 15 people in the room and also online have prepared kind of a kickstart the discussion from country perspective. So not a complete country oversight, not a complete country analysis, but more from their program or organizational perspectives. Afterwards, before tea break, I think that is around 3:30. We have some little time for Q&A, but after the tea break, there is also a plenary where we have more time for exchanging, discussing, and getting to know the countries. Wait, I clicked too quick. These are, before we go to the itinerary, these are, there is a back button. The two guiding questions are those under, of course, the framework of the theme today. How are you managing to fund WOPs in your country, and which sources and initiatives are available for WOP activities in your country? Second, are legal frameworks supportive or inhibitive? We have a long journey ahead of us, as I said, 11 countries. So I kindly ask you to be mindful of time. Please, let's keep the first input per country to under 5 hours. Otherwise, the bus driver will leave. 5 minutes. What did it say?
5 hours.
5 hours. 5 minutes per country. And this is the itinerary. On our first stop, Germany, going through Belgium, then France, Spain, Switzerland, Italy, glimpse to Southeast European country through Vienna. Then Hungary is not missing, the Netherlands. And then we have to take a plane, leaving the bus to the UK, Wales, and then Finland, and then flying back to Bonn. I think I would now ask Jonas to take down the slides, because I really want to kind of everyone to share the camera and see ourselves and make it a bit more engaging. My colleague Ashmeet online is sharing the 2 slides on the itinerary and the 2 guiding questions. And for the room, could we get the slide with the itinerary? Yeah. And then for us, the gallery, so we can also see the online cameras. That would be great, just as setting us up. So starting, we are in Bonn. Of course, we will start here and begin our journey, and then have another stop in Hamburg. So I would kindly ask Ulrike Sohn from BMZ, the German Federal Ministry for Economic Development and Cooperation, I think together and or with Friederike from GIZ, for the first glimpse on Germany from a Bonn, BMZ, and GIZ perspective. Thanks. And don't forget to press this little button so the camera and the audio works for you. Thanks, over to you.
Thank you so much, Franziska. Very nice idea indeed. I like the idea of this bus stop. Let's keep it short. So I think for Germany, WOPs are a really important instrument for improving global water security, climate resilience, and achieving SDG 6. So of course, there are a couple of instruments we're using. I mean, I think some of the people here have been at the WOPs forum in May. We had a really nice alignment with the global WOPs forum here and having special event for the German Parliament and general audience in Berlin. I think this was really good. Asa just mentioned it. We also just extended the funding for GWOPA, which for us is like a key cornerstone of our support. And then also last year, we just launched the Urban Water Catalyst Initiative, which now is in its pilot phase. It's a cooperation with the Netherlands, very appreciated, and the European Union. It's a innovative combination of technical and financial assistance. And I don't want to go into much detail, but we just launched the pilot phase. I think we have 14 applications in, maybe more to come up. Deadline is already over. So now we want to get into the piloting phase and then also continue with the implementation in the second quarter this year. Also, we have a pilot project in the second phase, which is the operator platform to strengthen partnerships of municipal companies worldwide in cooperation with the Association of Municipal Enterprises, the VKU in Germany, and the German Water Partnership. Very appreciated also this combination, I think, because it provides direct financial support to WOPs and funding of coordination and consulting efforts. And it's steered by the GIZ and the service agencies, communities in one world, the SKW and at Engagement Global. And yes, obviously, we want to use this knowledge to increase the efficiency, also learn how to better mainstream into other portfolios, where we are also in close contact with GWOPA. And having said all this, we're still aware of the legal frameworks that are supporting or inhibiting. And I mean, one particular situation we're having is that water and sanitation utilities are usually separated into two different institutions in Germany, and there are different legal frameworks for the two services. And so it's a public and a more private approach, and both are mandated and can decide about the legal, like the municipalities basically decide upon the legal status. Therefore, there's a big variety in management, which I think is kind of a challenge. And obviously, there are also a couple like municipalities are encouraged to engage, and utilities can participate. Hence, water utilities can operate internationally. However, they still need to consider not only federal, but also state and municipal laws in doing so. Some of them are better, some of them are worse. One, like the biggest inhibitor is that they cannot use contributions or fees from customers to finance this kind of cooperation. And this means that all the partnerships there are now are kind of 100% dependent on funding. So we try to research deeper into that, what can be done about it. And obviously, they also need to have defined the international engagement in the company rules and regulations, which requires changes and so on. And having said all this, living in a country with some kind of bureaucratic requirements, these also can be heavy in some contexts in development cooperation. I'm really aware of that. And I think the operators platform is a good way also to ease partnerships into it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rike. Stayed well within the time. Are we leaving Bonn already? Rike, would you? Great. Good. So we're leaving to Hamburg. Probably no snow at the moment, but we will hear from Claudia Wendland from Hamburg Wasser, a few words from her perspective.
Yeah, hi, good morning. Thank you very much. Actually, we decided that we have a joint presentation, so I can just add maybe one point which was not mentioned so far. I'm from Hamburg Wasser, so one of the utilities involved in WOPs from Germany, and we are one of the larger utilities. And what is a bit special, maybe in Germany, also comparing to other European countries, is that in Germany we have many also very small utilities. We have in total over 13,000 utilities, and for the smaller ones, it's of course quite difficult to engage in WOPs. And even if they don't have many not legal hindrances, they are just hindrances also, or barriers in terms of managing the administration, managing the project, dealing with the project management of such international projects. So that's maybe one perspective that has not been mentioned. Yeah, and there was also a question how we mobilize in Germany. So with German Water Partnership, I'm also there co-leading this one working group, and there via German Water Partnership, we try to mobilize more German utilities. So we have also a little overview on the German utility side and try to mobilize more and more, and we do our best to do that. So, thank you.
Thank you. So everyone all aboard, because we're continuing westwards to Belgium. We're visiting Verviers, Minazola. Is that right? Hi. So from Belgium, from SWDO, we will be presenting Minazola Miantwadi. Thanks. The floor is yours.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. It's breaking a little bit. Can you start speaking?
I didn't hear you well. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Minazola, head of international project in SWD. I don't know if other Belgium people are also joining us. I don't know. But just give you information about founded framework. But it's about the south part of Belgium, because water responsibility of water is managed by region. It's federal country, but water is all concerned in the south by region. So I will just talk about south, because SWDE is in the French part of Belgium, but I can't talk about the north or also Brussels. SWDE is more than 15 years involved now in international stage, and also in WOP projects. And now we are involving in a WOP project with partner from Congo, DRC. As I say that responsibility for international cooperation is shared between, because of, the federal context of Belgium, international cooperation is shared between the federal and the regional level. But water is managed by the region, and consequently, a federal level. In the federal level, there is no direct fund applicable for a water operator. But the federal level operates through bilateral cooperation, and in bilateral funds, there is cross-cutting vision, and water issue can be integrated in other areas such as social cohesion, education, and so on. So water is integrated with a cross-cutting approach linked to basic services. The federal government also acts as intermediary in European funds, in management of European funds on specific projects in the individual countries. In some cases, the focus can be also water, and part of projects can also be dedicated to WOPs. And in the regional level, there are institutions responsible for international cooperation. They operate through bilateral cooperation also, and water may be one of the selected areas for cooperation. And in this case, WOPs can be funded through call for projects, for example. In regional and also municipal public services, there can be also call for projects outside scope of bilateral cooperation. And these calls for projects can focus on particular country or on particular themes. And they can also be made for WOPs. SWDE, I say that we are involved for more than 15 years in international stage. And SWDE, as a public body, one of mission is to carry out international cooperation. And this enable SWDE to seek funds wherever is available, it's national or international stage. From that, I can say that legal framework is available for operators in Belgium, mainly, yes, in the south of Belgium, and I suppose also, yes, also from the country in the north, because there are legal framework in the federal way, because we can sign framework agreement with the federal cooperation body that allows us also to be selected for water projects. And in the other way, as access for funding can seem more complex because there are two stages, yes, of organization about funding, the federal and the municipal or the regional way. And in the regional way, it's clear that water, yes, water or WOPs can be funded. As an operator, SWD is to keep itself regularly informed about the funding available, and also if WOP are possible through this funding, because we don't have always, yes, information. Sometimes we are to seek information, and information are not directly oriented in water or in WOPs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minazola, for that insight from the south of Belgium. We're continuing to head westwards to France. For that short input, we would need the slides back to be shared also with the online participants, because we have a few slides here. And I'm welcoming Mélodie Boissel from PSO to give us a snapshot from France. Mélodie, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. So I'm from PSO, which is a French network. We have the mission to act as an observatory. We centralize, analyze, communicate data about decentralized and non-governmental action on water and sanitation. And also we act as an advisory to help all these actors to manage their actions. So I will share some observation from PSO about the French case. So can we move to the next slide, please? Can you move to the next slide, please? Okay. So you probably heard about the Houdin-Santini law. For the recall, this law allows the French local authorities in charge of water and sanitation in France. This law allows them to dedicate a part of the budget of water and sanitation to support international actions on water and sanitation sector. But this law is important, but it's also good to have in mind that this law actually reinforces an already very flexible and incitative legal framework. Indeed, the French local authorities, they all have the possibility to get involved in international action on water and sanitation sector. These kind of actions are a matter of free will for local authorities. This is a decentralized subject in international action in France. And this Oudin Santini law, it gives another possibility, a specific tool to act in water and sanitation sector for the local authorities in charge of water and sanitation services in France. If you have questions, I can answer it later, but I hope it's clear. And it's also important to have in mind that the French government also provides some financial arrangements to help this initiative of French local authorities. Can you click? Maybe it will be more convenient. Okay. It's not exactly the same presentation actually. The text is not exactly the same, but I can share with you the presentation later, or maybe I can share myself because some texts are cut. So, but this is the description of the law that French local authorities can mobilize to get involved in water and sanitation international actions. So can you move to the next slide, please? Next slide, please. Maybe we can stop with the presentation because it's not okay. Can you click again, please?
Hi, sorry, Melody, we have a 5-second delay here. So I'm clicking when you say click, but we need to wait 5 seconds. Sorry. Just say click, I'll click.
Maybe can I click myself? No? Is it possible?
No, I don't think so. I have the clicker in the room. But
okay.
Yeah, we just have to work with a few seconds delay, but it works.
Okay. Okay, so please, can you click? Okay, so thanks to all of that, there is a lot of local authorities involved in international action on water and sanitation sector, more than 150 of them in 2022. But it doesn't mean always that they are really directly involved. Some of them just help with funds. Other actors, such as NGOs and sometimes other local authorities, but they are not directly involved. Can you click, please? Can you click all of the slides? Maybe it's better. Okay, next. No, it's. Can you back? Can you back the previous slide, please? Okay, thank you. So among the 150 local authorities involved in international action on water and sanitation, some of them are directly involved, around 50% of them. We call that decentralized cooperation. And among them, not all of them involved their technical services, technical departments, actually. Around 20 of them involved directly their technical departments in the water and sanitation international actions. So in France, we have a very flexible initiative legal framework to make WOP possible, but the international actions doesn't always take this form. So in the French context, the real challenge is to to get more technical departments really involved in these partnerships. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, maybe we will stop with the presentation and I will continue speaking without that. I don't know. Okay. So as I said, the main challenge is to get more technical departments really involved, because many of the local authorities just provide funds. They help with financial tools, the action, but they are not really technically involved. PSO, my network, we work on that. That's part of our advocacy activities. There is maybe two axes to highlight why WOPs could be a relevant way to get involved. The first is to highlight that the international action on water and sanitation is really relevant because when technical services are directly involved, it's obviously better for the partnership because there is a real skill involved, and the French local authorities, they have this skill in their staff. And what is also important is that the Houdin Sentinello is a way to make possible solidarity between users, because this is actually a part of the fees, the water and sanitation fees, that directly goes to the users of these services in low and middle income countries. Can you move to the next slide, please? This is the last one. Okay, but actually, it's not enough to make more local authorities involved and to make them really involve their technical departments. What's important is to make understand that there is also benefits to the French local authorities itself. This is about moving from a perspective of a knower helping a learner to a real partnership with mutual benefits. And there is some topics are especially interesting to make that vision possible. For example, some territories, some South territories already face the effect of climate change. So some topics such as reuse, water, integrating water resource management. For this kind of topics, French local authorities have a lot to learn from their South partners. And I will not talk about all these items, but one of them is about the multi-stakeholder dynamics, because there is the two local authorities, but around this partnership, a lot of other kind of actors can get involved. It can be a real. It can become a real cultural project for the French territory itself. If some NGOs and universities and other civil societies organizations are also involved in the actions. And to conclude, maybe one key point is also that for the French local authorities, it can be a really good thing to communicate about this partnership for the international reputation of their skill, and to motivate their technicians and to help them to maybe take a step back from their own practices and choices in France. I'm thinking, for example, about the economic health models we have for water and sanitation services in France. It's maybe it could be interesting to think about that in partnership with other local authorities in low and middle income countries. So we have this is some examples, but we have a few ideas of how explain how give more importance of the mutual benefits we can have in decentralized partnership between a French local authority and another local authorities in low and middle income countries about water and sanitation. So I'm sorry it was not easy with the presentation moving slowly.
Yes, Melody, that was totally on our side. To stay with the bus analogy, we had some traffic on the Autobahn, let's say. The clicker was a bit slow, but it's technically from our side. Thanks for this input and the kind of framework from France. And the bus will continue driving south from France to Spain, where we have, I think, a tandem of online and in the room, right? We have online Yasmina Ferra from ICIT, the Spanish Agency for International Development Cooperation, and here in the room from Sevilla, Emma Cesa, or did you? Great. So we'll hear from you both in combined a few minutes, or did you? Okay, great. Yasmina, would you like to start the input for Spain? Thanks.
Okay. Do you hear me well? Do you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Okay. So hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I would like to thank GWOPA Secretariat for organizing this interesting workshop, and also thank them too for inviting us to participate. So I prepared some points to expose concerning the topics that we're talking about. I am going to speak from my 6 years of experience in the Spanish Water Cooperation Fund, which is an entity that is part of IC from the Spanish Cooperation Agency, and therefore it's part of the Spanish public administration. The first thing that I wanted to comment is that there is a will and interest from the Spanish Cooperation, and specifically from the Spanish Water Cooperation Fund, to promote WOPs. And we have some funds available for this. For us, it has always been an activity that, well planned and well executed, can give very good results with relatively few resources. And it has the potential to promote sustainability of programs that have already finished, and also has the potential to promote new programs. A second thing that I wanted to highlight is that I believe, or as long as I know, from the point of view of a water utility company, I don't think there are enough incentives to promote these activities in Spain. I don't think the legal and regulatory framework in Spain specifically encourages this type of activity. According to my knowledge, only in some parts, in some regions of Spain, it is promoted through legislation that at the local level, water utilities can allocate part of their fees or their incomes to international cooperations activities. So finally, it depends much on the political will of the utilities. However, companies are increasingly including these kind of activities in their corporate social responsibilities. As it is not yet adequately regulated, it depends, as I said, a lot on the political will of the water utility and the time availability of the people involved in the partnership. And it is difficult to maintain a long-term activity. And at the end, I see that it also depends on the size of the company. We see greater difficulties for small utilities. And the last point I wanted to expose is that from the point of view of IFID, as part of the public administration at national level, as I already said, we have tried to promote water operator partnerships with the Spanish operators as mentors, but in most cases, we have not contemplated economic compensation for the utilities. And we see that this is a problem in the long term, not giving this economic compensation. But we have the difficulty of legal administrative mechanisms, instruments in the public administration available to provide this. There are some possibilities, there are some alternatives, such as agreements, which require co-financing by both parties, but they are complex from the point of view of the administrative procedures. They have to go through multiple instances and it causes great delays. So we see a lack of flexible legal instruments that can be used to carry out these partnerships. So this is more or less, this is part of the problems we have in the Spanish cooperation to promote this kind of activities. And the reason why we haven't been able to promote many of these partnerships. We have only been able to promote just a few of them in the last 4 or 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Yasmina. It's very interesting hearing from you every time I have the opportunity. Thank you very much. Okay, my name is Joaquín Buendía. I work at Macesa. It's a public company in the south of Spain, in the city of Seville. My colleague Darío here. We have been involved in cooperation project in the last 20 years, almost. We have developed more than 23 cooperation project WOPs, if you can call WOPs, if you want to call it WOPs. And Darío has been involved directly as an expert in more than 7. And in this moment, we are working in 6 projects, 7 if we count the one in Palestine, financed by the EU WOPs program. And in all this year, we have one main risk to find money, to find funds to cover all our costs. It's a political risk. Because we have election every 4 years, and all the new government, all the new people who have in charge of the government have new ideas, and they always want to change something. And this is, in my opinion, the main risk that we have in this moment to continue to work in WOP projects. People in the Macesa are willing to help other operator companies, but sometimes we have difficulties. In this moment, they change it again, and they ask our company to cover at least the cost that we have in all the activities, all the equipment, all the travels, accommodations, at least the cost. And we all know that we don't cover with the funds all the costs that we have. My colleague Darío will explain a little bit why they think our politicians in this way. Maybe it's because of the drought, or we don't know. But to respond to the great question, the risk is political for us.
Thank you very much. My name is Dario. I agree with Joaquin, but I want to explain in other way the same thing. We have developed several WOP projects funded by several bilateral organizations, including GWOPA and ADB and other ones. But also we fund, as other utilities, we fund that WOPs. We fund the money of the salaries of the local staff who is involved in the WOPs. In Sevilla, nowadays we are suffering a very agreed drought, and drought have cost. We have to raise the water rates to the citizens, and as a public company, we have to explain everything we do. So the opposition use that's raising the tariff as an argument, as a bad argument, to attack directly the cooperation, because they think that cooperation is not the core of our company. So all the company, we haven't got problems with the technicians involved in the WOPs. Everybody support the WOPs. We have doing, and we like to do it, and we want to continue doing, but we have to explore new ways to cover the cost of that stuff. Just the part of the money that the company put on the table. And we are not talking on making money with WOPs, just to cover it. So we explain it to Acid, to Yasmina, and we are explaining here the same question, because it's a big problem to make the cooperation sustainable in the future. Yes, I want to add that question because for us it's important, and why we are here to explain that to everybody, because we want to continue, but it's very difficult in local companies to do it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Yasmina, Joaquin, and Dario, for the view from Spain. We're continuing eastwards to probably see some more snow again, to Switzerland. We'll be visiting, I think, Zurich and Mendrisio, if I'm not mistaken, presented by Claudio Valsangiacomo from SUPSI, the University of Applied Sciences of Italian Switzerland, and Lukas Baumann from, I believe, currently EAVAG, but soon to be VSA, the Association of Swiss Wastewater and Water Protection Experts. Over to you. Please start already. I'll put up the slides from my end because there were just some.
Thank you, Frau Busfahrerin. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairwoman. We were asked to do it in 5 minutes, so we tried to do it in 5 minutes. So WOPs in Switzerland. I am professor at the university, the smallest university in Switzerland of applied sciences of southern Switzerland, the Italian part. As you know, Italian is a national language in Switzerland, as well as French and German. So the next slide is showing the main mechanism we have for raising funds for WOPs. So how are we managing funds? We have two city-to-city partnerships, which were initially funded by the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, and Solidarité Suisse, which is raising money from municipalities on a voluntary base. So it's 1 cent per cubic meter per person per year, which makes 1 Swiss franc, which is approximately €1 or $1 per person. If you have a municipality of 5,000, it's 5,000 francs per year. So, and Anne, as you were saying before, so actually we have 2 city-to-city partnerships or partnership between water facilities, but we have more than 200 municipalities. They are doing WOPs, are micro WOPs somehow. They fund a project. Every year they raise 5, 10, 15,000 francs, and they spend that money for a water facility, a water project, an NGO working in the south. So these are WOPs also. So we have few hundred. It's I guess 220 something Gemeinden, municipalities in Switzerland, and of course mainly in the Italian part and French part, because so we are the one with more solidarity in Switzerland. And in fact, the city-to-city partnership started in 2009 in Lausanne, which is in the French part, and in Lugano 2 years ago, which is in the Italian part, with two major cities in Africa, so Nouakchott and Hawass in Ethiopia. The first water facility partnership is between both water facilities. And the second one, the one in Lugano, it's a quadrupla, un partenariato quadruplo. That means between two water facilities and the two universities, the one in Mendrisio and the other one in Hawassa. And I would give the word to you, Lucas, and you will talk more about the blue communities, which is the second instrument we have in Switzerland for raising this type of money. And then you are talking also about the difficulty we have, which are most legal.
Thank you. So another approach that we think has a lot of potential in Switzerland is the approach of Swiss Blue Communities. So Blue Communities is a global movement which follows the 3 principles listed here. And because in Switzerland we do everything a little different, there is the 4th one added. And the 4th one requires that the Blue Community commits to public partnerships with international partners. And we see there a lot of potential for WOPs. Who can be a blue community? Basically a variety of institutions and actors. So it's often communities, cities, but also utilities, NGOs, universities, and other organizations. Next slide, please. Well, are legal frameworks supportive or inhibiting? I think it's rather inhibiting. And a nice example that explains this is the case of St. Gallen. In 2020, they are also a blue community, by the way, and like as part of this commitment, they introduced a mandatory water cent in 2020. So 1 cent per cubic meter water should go into international cooperation. But also probably political opponents, they were not happy with it and they went to court. The legal decision was that the levying of water cents proves to be illegal. So they had to take it away again because no additional taxes may be levied on water. That's the rule. And they introduced the voluntary water cents in 2022. However, as already Claudio before mentioned, in theory, it's illegal, but as in the French and also Italian parts, they don't take the rules as serious. They're anyway doing it, and they're also not the only funds available for water utility are the funds from water sales. So there are other pots, but they heavily depend on the political will of the water utilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia and Lucas, and for Switzerland on being brave. We'll continue and slightly west Italy to Turin, where Federico Perotti from HydroAid will give us insights on the Italian context. And special credit to Federico. I think he would enjoy this bus tour a lot because when his flight was cancelled yesterday, he took the overnight bus to Bonn. So thanks for putting in the effort of being here.
It was an interesting experience in any case. Yes, I am here on behalf of HydroAid, that is this association that brings training activities inside WOPs or like WOPs activities or project. But I am also here in the name of the partnership with SMAT, that is the water utility of Turin and its province, and all the partnership that now is carrying out the WOP with India. I know that there is another WOP carried by Milano Metropolitana, the Society of Water Operator of Milano. I come from a long experience in the international cooperation, particularly in NGOs, personally. And this experience in the WOPs of coordinating or promoting the WOP, and we share this vision with SMAT as a mentor. It's a real interest of a diverse typology of cooperation, of international cooperation, in particular in water sanitation. The idea and the practice also of exchange and mutual benefit in practice, carried out in practice, is very interesting. In this sense, it is very important, we say with also the people of SMAT, to ensure a stable source of financing to this experience, also for the future, for increasing also Italians' experience of this kind. Increasing also the financing by Italian framework of cooperation and also Italian framework of utilities and all institutions around the water sector. The Italian framework of international cooperation is made by a law that is as 10 years old. The new law, we call it a new law, but it has already 10 years. It is very open law in sense that this international cooperation law involves many typologies of actors, and so the kind of WOPs can be easily financed in the framework of Italian cooperation laws. Also, for decentralized cooperation, it is also very easy to promote this kind. It would be very easy to promote this kind of trainings or experience, because we can involve, for example, kind of activities like WOPs, both in the NGO project, like promoting partnership, etc., in private enterprise project that can involve this kind of cooperation without profit, of course, and in decentralized cooperation project. For example, the next call for proposal that will come in the next days, that we wait, in Italy, we wait years for a call of proposals, but this call of proposal will have 60 million euros only for local authorities projects. That is much for the capacity of Italian. So there is, in fact, a framework of possibility of inserting. On the other side, there are choices, political choices, thematic choices, and also geographic choices that don't give any particular interest to water and sanitation sector. This is in the strategic document of Italian cooperation. There is the sector, but it is one sector like the others. There is not a particular accent on this. And also, when we talk about decentralized cooperation, municipalities or regional governments choose territories or choose also items on which do projects, not particularly giving particular importance to this item. So this is also to keep into account for in terms of political choices. Of course, if we succeed in bringing in the next 10 years, the 0.7 of GDP to international cooperation, there will be more possibility. There is actually in this month there is a campaign on this, because we are still at 0.3, 0.4 maximum. This is a parenthesis, but it is like brackets. Concerning specific funding from water utilities or regulation authorities in the water sector, the integrated water service sector is regulated by the central authorities, and that establishes tariff criteria, etc., and verify the correct application of the mechanism. At the moment, there is no component, particular component dedicated to cooperation project from the central regulation agency, but this is not in the last years. I saw different cases of little local authorities that can make, like French in the French case, choosing of dedicated 1% of the revenues in water. It is possible. It is totally voluntary, but it is possible. And there are in Turin. There was a case for some years of this, and then they stopped. But it is totally voluntary. So in this sense, in the sense of the enables, it is very important to advocate about this. Last theme for the legal framework. It is believed to be neither supportive nor inhibitory. It is neutral. There are spaces, as I showed before, there are spaces to increase this kind of experience, and also to finance a little bit. But actually, we depend still on the call for proposal, on the global financing, on the EU WOPs, where we put the contribution, and there is not a really strong engagement in financing and supporting these experiences. So thank you.
Thank you, Federico, for that input from Italy. We are leaving and traveling northeast to Austria and Vienna, where we wanted to have a glimpse into Southeast European countries. Unfortunately, our tour guide, Elisabetta Porcius online, had to leave for an appointment at the moment, and I just forgot to take track of time. But maybe we can hear from her later. Or another opportunity is Alexander Kristic, who I see is online. I don't know if you're available or would be ready maybe to provide that input on her behalf at the end of the tour. So also giving you time and heads up to prepare. We can coordinate through the chat. Okay, so we are continuing our drive to Hungary. Also online, where we have Rita Studnicki from Budapest Waterworks. Rita, over to you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me. It's good to see you again and to talk about these kind of topics. So about us, I am from Budapest Waterworks. We are an operator. We provide drinking water services in Budapest, and we have been working in international projects for 15 years now, not always for non-profit, but sometimes for for-profit projects. And this is part of the company's strategy. It's really important for us for revenue reasons, and also as a kind of motivation and keeping our colleagues happy or entertained in a way, so giving them new thoughts and new lines of work. So in that sense, it is this environment within the company is supportive. as in terms of legal environment, we are public company limited by shares, so we can sign any contracts legally that is approved by our owners. So there are no legal limitations in this sense. Our owners are the municipalities. 99% is Budapest municipality, and the rest is other municipalities where we operate. However, in terms of financial environment, we just have a new Water Act that came out in December. We are still waiting for the decree on its execution to come out in a couple of months, so we are not entirely sure. However, this new Water Act is pretty strict about costs that are eligible to be covered from the water tariffs and from the revenues from water tariffs. And in this sense, although we have, for example, in the EU WOP program, we have a lot of our costs and a lot of costs of the WOP covered from EU funds. Still, these kind of in-kind contributions that may come from us as a mentor would may be difficult in terms of the new Water Act. So as I mentioned, we don't know exactly how it would need to be executed. We are expected the decree on that level, but we may need to think about this. And in terms of funding, yeah, I would say that this could be like the biggest inhibition for WOPs within Budapest Waterworks, because we do have the interest from the management, from the owners, from the colleagues. However, we need to find the funding for this kind of corporations. And yeah, this is one of the other reasons why we are very happy to be part of this EU WOP round now, and to be able to work with the two Pakistani mentees. So thank you very much. This is from Budapest, back to Bonn.
Thanks to Budapest. This feels like the European Song Contest. We will continue to head northwest to the Netherlands, to Utrecht, and hear from Anke Verhey from Waterworks program.
Thank you. I'm wondering, will my colleagues from the water authorities also share something, or will I include that? I can include it. You'll be sharing? Yeah, I can. Then I'll just be speaking on behalf of the Dutch drinking water companies. So the drinking water companies have been involved in WOPs for a long time, and we are able to do so via the Dutch drinking water law. It allows us to spend up to 1% of our annual turnover on international CSR activities. And what I think is also important, what we don't often mention yet in the discussions on enabling WOPs, is that also the enabling organizations are very supportive for WOPs. So for example, in the Netherlands, there is VEI, which is doing the international activities on behalf of 6 Dutch water utilities, and there is World WaterNet, who's responsible for the international activities of WaterNet in Amsterdam. And I think this really helps also to arrange all of the logistics, the insurance, safety issues, the financial controlling, the monitoring and evaluation of the programs. It really helps to work together in this sense in the Netherlands. It makes it a lot easier if there's an organization like that responsible for WOPs instead of all the utilities doing it alone, which, yeah, I think makes it a lot more difficult. When it comes to funding, the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs is a large funder of WOP programs in the Netherlands. We have the Waterworks program, which is a program of all 10 Dutch water utilities. It's a long-term program running from 2017 until 2030. And at the moment, 47 utilities are involved in Africa, Asia, and also recently in Ukraine. For now, we're in the second phase of the program, which is for 5 years. And we have a budget for these 5 years of 92 million euros. It's co-funded by the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs and also the Dutch utilities and partner utilities. Besides the Waterworks program, there are also other ways of funding WOPs, sometimes through the Dutch embassies, through RVO, the Sustainable Water Fund program. And we are also involved in the Urban Water Catalyst initiative. The Dutch government is, and also from the Waterworks program. And internationally, we are also involved in the EU WOP program. We work together with the ADB that have programs on WOPs, the Inter-American Development Bank, and well, other partners as well, the EIB and the World Bank. Yeah, so there are different ways of funding, but I think in general the environment in the Netherlands is quite supportive. It's both because of the legal structure of the Water Act, but also because of the organizations that we have like VEI and World Water Net. And then my colleagues from the water authorities can explain more.
Thank you, Anke, for explaining the Waterworks part of the WOPs from the Netherlands. First, I will introduce myself. My name is Marion Wierda. I have a cold, as you can hear. I come from the Netherlands. I have worked for one of the regional water authorities for about 25 years as a manager and an engineer. And now I'm a manager of the NWB Fonds, which is a fund that co-finances WOPs. And it's a fund that's related to the Bank of the Dutch Water Authorities. They have a separate bank and they decided to establish a fund to co-finance WOPs. Now, as you explained, Anke, is the WOPs concerning drinking water. That's mainly the Waterworks program. The other part of the WOPs from the Netherlands is the Blue Deal. And those are the WOPs concerning integrated water resource management. And I think it's good to say that the most important part of the Blue Deal is actually a deal between the regional water authorities. On the one hand, we have 21 of them in the Netherlands. Sounds much for a small country, but still we have a lot of water to manage. So that's why we have 21 of them. So we have a deal between these water authorities on the one hand and the Department of Foreign Affairs and the Department of Water and Infrastructure on the other hand. And this deal essentially says, okay, the water authorities, they will deliver in-kind contribution. So we deliver people who spend hours on WOPs, and the departments will deliver money, budget, to cover the costs. And this also concerns a long-term deal from 2018 till 2030, more or less the same as Waterworks. And what you see is, even though there is a deal between the regional water authorities as a collective on the one hand and the departments on the other hand, there is a lot of discussion in the individual regional water authorities on how much they will contribute, because it's an overall deal on behalf of all the water authorities. But each regional water authority has the mandate to decide for itself exactly how much in-kind contribution they will deliver. And this is where politics comes in. And I heard to the Spanish colleagues as well, and also I think the people from Switzerland and other countries, that boards, the elected boards of our water authorities, they say, look here, the fees we get from the people who live in our area are being paid to manage the water within this area. So they tend to be reluctant to spend that money and the hours of the people, of the staff, on international WOPs. And especially considering the political wind that is blowing in the Netherlands now, we are worried. We are deeply worried because we have our climate challenges for ourselves and we need to spend time and money on that. So the reluctance to spend money internationally becomes bigger. So I think this is a really important issue to address. We may have to occupy ourselves also with this political discussion, in the sense that we feed the political discussion with the right arguments. For instance, climate change cannot be solved locally. must be addressed internationally. You cannot solve climate problems within your own country, within your own region. And also investing in climate adaptation in the rest of the world will help to make life better, give more perspective in the rest of the world, which might decrease migration issues, which are political issues as well. So I think those are things we have to consider as civil servants. We may have to deliver input for that discussion. The other thing is, yes, it does help to have an arrangement on a national level about the Blue Deal, because at least there's some sort of a must. We must do this. Cannot say all water authorities should contribute except us. So it does help. And what also helps is that the department has committed itself to the budget for 2030. So you're not too much the victim of all the political swings after each election. So that helps as well. I think that's what I would like to contribute. Anything else, Frank?
No, well, only thing to add, my name is Frank Tibben. I'm working for World WaterNet, which is the international foundation connected to WaterNet as water cycle company in Amsterdam. And well, what we try to do is to combine all programs in the Netherlands and abroad around WOPs. So we see ourselves also as a matchmaking wall. Because we are a drinking water company, we are a Dutch water authority, and we are also a municipality in the Netherlands. And maybe that's also a good one. We have 365 municipalities in the Netherlands. They are also part of the international water and WOP society. And what we mainly see is that we are all in this together and we need each other. So how can we better share our work, and how can we increase our collective intelligence, I would say, to better perform in the WOPs we have, and also to optimize them. I think that's the main point to ask for now. But
Okay, just one last point I would like to make, and then I will finish. I know we're beyond 5 minutes, as many of us. I think the crucial factor that will help to enable WOPs and get support for WOPs is to invest in reciprocal learning, mutual benefits. That's what I hear again and again from people from boards and directors of water authorities. They say, look here, we are prepared to spend time and money on this if we get something out of it for the challenges that we have ourselves. And hip, hip, hooray, we have a lot of challenges. Climate change, and we can learn from each other within Europe and outside. So I think it's very important we focus on that and make sure also on an alliance level to see how we can get more exchange, actual exchange, not just us helping others, but also them helping us, because they do know better how to deal with drought in many ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Anke, Marion, and Frank, for the inputs from the Netherlands, but also very relevant for all countries around the globe. I will now drive you to Amsterdam, where we will take a flight to the UK and go via Bristol to Mid Glamorgan in South Wales. And we'll hear from Mark Rajowski from Welsh Water before we fly to Finland and then break for a well-deserved coffee break.
Bore da, croeso I Cymru. Hello, welcome to Wales, part of the UK. I work for Welsh Water, or Do Cymru as we like to call it. I'll give a perspective of the UK as well. We've got a variety of different water companies. Scottish Water, Irish Water are government-owned companies. In Wales, we're a not-for-profit company, but still private. And in England, most of the companies are private. And that's why we're fortunate enough to take advantage of the EU WOP funding, which has that's been the main enabler for a WOP, because I suppose most of the water companies in the UK since 1981 have supported water aid. And that's mainly just been small fundraising events that have either come through letter drops with bills or through, I suppose, internal fundraising that we've done amongst colleagues. And then it's gone to the main water aid office and been dispersed to different countries. And most water companies have also got their own specific country where some of the internal funds go towards. Ours was with Uganda. So we had that initial connection with Eastern Umbrella in Uganda, but it was that extra funding to enable us to go over and above, because again, with our directors, it's a case of we should be looking at our water and wastewater business. That's our core business. Why should we be looking elsewhere? And it's, I suppose, as our customers pay for that, they want to get the best value. And yes, the fundraising, that's separate because it's not our customers' money, unless they've provided it through fund or fundraising, being asked for it. But this EU WOP enabled us to get that partnership going and support, I suppose, some of our corporate social responsibility and environmental and social responsibility parts of our corporate part of our business. But it's how we would carry on that partnership without that funding, because it's enabled us to build trust between us and the Eastern Umbrella in Uganda. But it's, I suppose, it's how do you carry on that funding? How can we actually show, like Marion was saying, what are the benefits that we can then take to our board? Is that something that WOPA could act as an enabler to show these are the benefits that a European company can get? Well, I suppose also having that seed funding, because that seed funding that came through from the EU WOP has enabled us, or Eastern Umbrella, to get funding from World Bank, for example, to get materials for some of the schemes there. But it's also enabled us to convince the board and our directors to provide counterpart funding as well, and time and resources internally, by having that initial funding, seed funding in effect, and getting that additional match funding on top. Legally, I don't think we've got any legal framework issues, although in Wales in particular, we've got the Welsh government have got the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, which has got a global Wales aspect to it. And they do actually support another project in Uganda. So there's some synergies there that we can promote, but it's that come down to showing if we can't use our customers' money, where else can we get funding from? So that's it. Jock and Var, thank you very much from Wales. And where are we going on to now?
Now I can fly as well. I'm a pilot now. I will fly you from Bristol to Helsinki, where we'll hear from Hannu Wickman from HSY about the context and framework in Finland.
Thank you very much. And I come from a snowy and cold place, so this is nothing special. In Finland, the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry is responsible for utilities at the ministerial level. The main responsibility is within municipalities, who are responsible for arranging water supply and sewerage, but they don't need to have their own utilities. In fact, most of the utilities are municipal. The most important legal document is Water Services Act, which mainly stipulates on the rights and responsibilities of water utilities in their service areas defined by municipalities, and on the other hand, also the rights and responsibilities of the customers. It's completely silent about international cooperation. Its stipulations on water tariffs don't, let's say, explicitly rule out some kind of international cooperation. According to the law, utilities are allowed to collect reasonable profit. Well, let's say that most utilities are not able to make profit. They should be self-sustained. In bigger cities, they really can make a profit, but their owners have very deep pockets, and they try to keep the income taxes a little bit lower by these revenues. So even in Helsinki, the utility has a challenge in financing the necessary rehabilitations. This situation, of course, has direct impacts on the financing point. So it means that the only real financing source of utilities for this kind of WOP is their own funds, which are very limited. There might be some chances. I would say that I don't see any proper window for utilities, but if there is cooperation with, for example, NGOs, somehow in the same place, NGOs might get financing from Finnish Ministry for Foreign Affairs. And if there is cooperation with private companies in the same area, they could bring in something, but that's something, let's say, so far it has not materialized. I would not expect that there would be many potential WOP partners in Finland, maybe a handful of utilities in bigger cities. But because of this funding situation, there is also a kind of shortage of staff in the utilities too, because there's no additional staff to do this. And especially the management of an administration requires, I would say, some kind of experience that is not, let's say, natural in these utilities. We also have thousands of small community-based water supply or cooperatives, but they are definitely too small to do this. One thing which is special in Finland is that water and wastewater are almost everywhere managed by the same utilities. There is one historical reason for that. So this is the let's say utility point of view, but I would like to give also the floor to my colleague Anitta, who represents the ministerial level, more or less.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hannu. I'm coming from Center of Economic Development, Transport and Environment. And I would like to mention 2 programs we have had in Finland. The first one was WOP program. A couple of years ago, we got funding from minister to finance WOP projects, but unfortunately, COVID interrupted all of those projects. And then we have other program, which is to develop know-how and business in water sector. And we have been able to fund 22 projects, which consist of consortiums. They are water utilities, companies and research centers. And they are doing piloting and demos, and also they have to have some kind of internationalization plan. I hope and I see that there are some projects which are useful also for future WOP programs. Okay, I think this is all from Finland at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannu and Anita from Finland. We have one kind of rescheduling, and we'll go to Southeast Europe again with the bus, because Alexander Kristic, who's here online, could give on behalf of Elisabetta, because he's also supporting IAWD, the International Association of Water Service Companies in the Danube River catchment areas, and give a kind of brief snapshot on Southeast European countries. Thanks, Alexander, for flexibility.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak. Sorry that I was a bit slow to respond. Unfortunately, I could not participate in the first half of the meeting, but yeah, Elisabetta was there. So just to mention, I'm representing here International Association of Water Companies in the Danube River catchment area, which is based in Vienna Waterworks, and in the same time, let's say it's a main partner of the association. Association is widely cooperating with associations from the region and with utilities from the region. I will be brief. I mean, we are starting now looking for the ways to maybe find a way to start with some kind of activities or to create a platform for Southeast Europe and East Europe. And it's quite valuable to hear experience of colleagues from EU WOP. We of course have all the same issues like colleagues from Western Europe, but with some additional issues. In the past, the region had quite good, let's say, cooperation between utilities. Even, for example, it's famous the cooperation between Belgrade Waterworks and Budapest Waterworks, and with Budapest and Subotica, for example. And there were some WOPs activities recently, but there are problems, 90s and everything that happened. For example, in political sense, we have an example of Bosnia and Herzegovina, which with some 3.5 million people has 130 ministries. So it's quite a challenging environment. But let's say in the last 15 years, there was 10 years, there was quite a lot is done on cooperation between associations and utilities, and yes, some next step would be actually to go for water operators partnerships. So I would not repeat all the problems that we already heard. We are kind of, for West Europe, kind of new, but hope to learn from Western European utilities and to establish WOP partnerships in the future in the region.
Thank you, Alexander, and thanks everyone for coming on this tour with us. That would wrap up our first hop on, hop off WOPs enabling tour. Yeah, Alexander, if you can mute yourself, I think that there is a slight echo. Thanks. We are, I think, just shortly before the coffee break. My proposal is that the Q&A and discussion that immediately follows this tour takes place just outside in front of the coffee table. And for the online participants, there are also quite many, I think over 20. I will check with the technicians. I think we can leave the room open for you to also have a platform to possibly have a joint coffee break and informal discussion. So we would mute kind of the online meeting, so you have your own room and platform if you would like to continue somehow an online joint coffee break. Before we break for coffee, we would like to take a group picture because that's a good opportunity now, everyone being in the room. I think online, please turn on your camera so we can see the gallery view, and everyone in the room will come here just in front of the big screen, and then Kanok will take the picture. Yeah, great. The coffee break is scheduled for half an hour, so I would say we slowly come back at 4, like 5 minutes after 4, we resume again. Okay, for Central European winter time. Sorry, the full hour.
Are we done now with the online group photo? We all stare in the camera and
just
smile.
please, those online, thank you for turning your cameras on. Just give us a minute while we gather. If everyone in the room could please gather now in front of the screen, because the online participants are waiting for us. So please come. Kanok, do we all
Okay, thanks for the patience. We're done here with the group photo. See you in half an hour. And feel free to continue discussing online. We'll kind of mute the sound here in the room both ways.
I think the online people need to stretch. Unmute, please.
We cannot hear you. Sorry for interrupting.
Hello, hello. Working now? Good. Thanks. Okay, thanks a lot, everyone. Sorry, coffee lasted a while. Thanks and welcome back. It was really a nice tour. Thank you very much, Franzi, and for everyone for your inputs. We learned a lot, and I took really detailed notes of things that were being said because there's really a lot of new information that I think will complement a lot the survey that that we're completing. And we want to capture a lot of these practices, these policies, these challenges, these things a little bit more, make them more accessible. Because I think it's clear that there's a lot that can be learned. I mean, even in the discussions, I was noting, you know, okay, you should speak to them and so on. So this, there's lots of opportunity for that, for the exchange. We know that that's happening already. And I hope it's also given you some food for thought for the discussion that will happen just after this next segment on what we can do together moving forward, how we can help one another make these WOPs more, let's say, enabled at either our country levels, our regional levels, within Europe as a whole, or more widely. So what we're doing now is we're having a presentation from Maria Pascual. So one more presentation that will be speaking your way, which will be very interesting, but then we will have open it up for dialogue. So we'll have question and answer on all that was presented before, on Maria's presentation, and then be trying to answer together some questions about how we can move forward together. So that is the plan for the rest of the day. And I'm just wondering if there's one slide that is ready. Yes, super. And sorry for this is to make people in the online jealous maybe and wishing they had come to Bonn with us. We're going out after this for a little drink at a place called Remy's. Well, on a self-paid basis, but it's just around the corner, and we hope you will join. It's a cute little place that just takes 5 minutes to walk to. So after this, we'll leave shortly thereafter from the lobby. Otherwise, you'll have received an email with the maps, so you can find it on your own if you can't come right away. Thanks for that. And with that, I will present, hand it over to Maria Pascual, who is our senior consultant who has done some work on WOP funding and potential to unlock opportunities for utility investments. Over to you, Maria.
Thank you so much, Julie. I have to start saying that, of course, this is the work that has been going on already with several partners like Waterworks for a few years. We've been looking into WOPs funding and especially looking into how WOPs funding makes itself available and the linkages with utility investments, which, of course, if we are looking into impact, it is essential. Impact in terms of
SDG 1, SDGs, the targets in Access 1 and 2, water supply and sanitation. The focus, of course, with WOPs is on capacity development, but we cannot detangle that from investments if we are aiming at access. So this is a bit the thread that we are trying to build with this presentation. Next. Just to start, some basic concepts concerning WOPs, budgets, costs that most of us are already very well aware. Of course, WOPs are very diverse, with ranging from, even in some cases, 20, 50,000 euros per project to a range of €1 million for a 4-year project. So there is a wide spectrum of projects. The main kind of costs that are covered through WOPs is generally staff time and related logistics, travel logistic costs. But in addition to that, there are other costs that might relate to knowledge transfer activities, venues, third-party facilitation in some cases. That in the case where WOP funding is not covering operational investments. But more and more we see, luckily, that WOP programs are integrating a component on investments, very necessary if we want to move on, even within the knowledge transfer component, to move from the individual capacity to more the organizational capacity. So that's also more and more visible in WOP programs. An example of it, of course, is the EU WOP program, where a range of, I think, is 25% budget is possible to spend in equipment. Correct me if I'm wrong, Julie. Then, of course, we have to always make this distinction, and that has also come across in several interventions before, between the in-kind and in-cash. And while the in-kind might be vulnerable to political interferences, as we have seen, it's quite a powerful feature of WOPs. When direct costs of a donor are covered and there is a fixed budget at the beginning, we see in many cases that budget gets larger and larger through increased commitment by partners and new ways in which they can contribute to the project. So that's also an element that it's really characteristic and distinctive factor of WOPs. Factors that are affecting costs. Well, duration, of course, is a critical one. Geographical distance between partners, partner composition, the degree to which online, on-site support is implemented. From COVID, we've seen that the online support has been intensified. New ways of working online are more present in WOPs as well. And this is also very cost effective. So you see in project evaluations that now, when the on-site support is considered really crucial for trust building, for getting to know the reality of the projects, to get to know the peers within the team working in a specific area, but then the very frequent online support, which in many projects is as frequent as a one meeting per month at least, then it really becomes really essential for cost effectiveness and also for continuity of activity. So that's been also something that is being observed a lot in projects. And then, of course, the amount that it's included for equipment, if there is equipment. Now, there is another feature that it's very interesting and remarkable. It's that WOPs tend to break the project cycle boundaries. I already mentioned that before. And that means that, of course, we are all used to a certain project commitment with a specific duration, specific funding. The design of the project is there. But along the way, generally the duration, the commitment between partners means that more duration is added, also more budget, and also there is a funding leveraging effect that it's very visible in this project. So what we have at the beginning in the design moment results in generally additional budgets, longer budgets, bigger budgets with time. Can we move to the next slide? Yeah. In terms of funding flows, we see a lot of diversity, and there is this is a point that probably should remain, the flexibility and the diversity should remain. There are cases in which there is no intermediary, cases in which there is a third party funding more direct costs. There is some cases where there is a conditionality for funding, a conditionality for partners to put some direct cost as well. There is a great diversity, and in general terms, it's just good to acknowledge that kind of diversity and accept that there are different conditions that we've seen in different countries, and we have to remain flexible for that. We also see that the partners get funding sometimes directly from donors, and in other cases, there is an intermediary, be it GWOPA in this case, for example, with the EU WOP, or regional actors like AFWA or WOPLAC in different regions that get the funding, and then that funding goes to the project partners. And of course, these intermediary partners generally also play not only, of course, the fund transfer, but also some additional administrative coordinating roles. Next, please. In terms of funding and main funders, WOPs have mostly been funded through grants. Bilateral and multilateral development agencies have been very active. This is far from trying to be exhaustive, but just to be sharing some remarkable examples that we've been able to collect. For example, DGIS, IACID, USAID, BMZ, JICA, AFD, EU. What we see is that more and more we see, rather than a one WOP case-by-case funded by development agencies, we see more WOP dedicated programs. Of course, the example of Waterworks, GIZ with utility partnerships, the EU, longer timeframes, and also the willingness from bilateral and multilateral actors to engage in WOPs, in WOPs as a program. Only, of course, as also was shared before, sometimes the capacity to really organize such programs remains at question in some cases. And for that, for example, platforms and organizations like GWOPA can really play an important element in trying to minimize the cost and the effort, the administrative burden, the monitoring support, knowledge transfer support. So a lot of actions that can be really taken away from the in this case, bilateral, multilateral agencies that want to support WOPs at the programmatic level. There are also some donors that have directed funding to GWOPA. This, of course, we know IACID, who were in Spain, that were hosting GWOPA for many years, AFD as well, BMZ currently, DGIS, who has been actively funding also GWOPA for knowledge management and advocacy activities. In fact, this research, this study has been funded by BWOP, which is the project has the long-lasting knowledge management project implemented together with IHE. Then we also have examples of development financial institutions financing WOPs, but these cases are not are quite short budgets compared to what we are more and more used to see. We see the Asia Development Bank, Inter-American Development Banks, they are funding WOPs as technical cooperation activities. And it's quite remarkable, and we will see that later, that the only example of development financial institution that has linked WOPs formally with investments is the ASEAN Development Bank, and they've been using it for before, during, and after, but we will see that after. We've jumped a few, but we also had the Islamic Development Bank, Africa Development Bank, many OPEC, WOPs, and many others. We will just go to the next slide here, but just to say that it is really not an exhaustive list, just a representation of the initiatives that have taken place. Of course, a very important source of funding are water operators themselves. We've mentioned the in-kind contribution, which in a lot of the cases has not been quantified, but when it has been quantified, it really adds up to a very amazing figure. An example can be given for the EU WOP, in which around, I don't know the exact figures, Julie, you might correct me, but I think it was around 8 million contribution from the grant and approx 5 million leverage through in-kind contributions, which is really quite outstanding. But what's interesting to see is that this is not an exception. It really, when you look at the cases, you see this very frequently happening. And it's not visible enough, I would say, how the in-kind contribution really makes an impact in terms of the duration of the project and the magnitude that it can take in terms of activities implemented. And then, of course, water operators, some water operators, especially the Dutch and the French, are able to cover direct costs through these very enabling legal frameworks, the examples given of the 1% turnover or budget that they can dedicate to this kind of projects. Other examples of WOP funders are charities, philanthropies, private foundations. Water aid was explained by our colleague from Wales a bit as well. Belinda and Melinda Gates Foundation, who are really funding very actively sanitation WOPs, SWOPs, and other UN programs like UNICEF, who has been engaging in 2 main WOPs in Angola and now Ethiopia. And this is just, again, to map out a bit the kind of WOP funders that we can see out there and the potential maybe later on to really engage others. Next, please. Yes, the WOPs and utility investment programs. This has been something that we've been talking in GWOPA for many years, and I personally have the feeling that initially we were talking from this standpoint as a bit of a theoretical of the potential of this happening, no? WOP supporting before, during, or after. And what we see now more and more analyzing cases is that this is actually happening already, and it's quite impressive to see. Not only also the financial institutions, I must say that I didn't say that before, but several financial institutions were interviewed for this study. And the international financial institutions, they are also sharing their value, how they value positively the impact of WOPs in terms of preparing, accompanying, or supporting later on the operation and maintenance of the infrastructure, which is also something that it's quite remarkable. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah. Let's look a bit more in depth of what's happening with WOPs before investment programs. As I said before, ADB is the only financial institution who is formally using WOPs to prepare some utilities for their investment program. The budgets are quite limited, but still seems to be, in a recent evaluation, seems to be working very efficiently and very well for the utilities, and they are demanding this kind of support. And then there are many ways in which WOPs, and which we can see cases with WOPs who are preparing utilities for investment programs. How? One way, of course, is through the operational efficiency gains that we are seeing more and more often being visible. And of course, these operational efficiency gains enhancing the credit worthiness. Just a very simple example, a recent WOP from the German program between Miahuna and Hamburg-Wasser, in which already during the first year in the production treatment plant, just with a small change in the flocculation process, 33,000 euros per month were saved to the utility in Miahuna. No large investments, just yes, a small investment, but some operational efficiencies that can be gained, and of course through that the credit worthiness enhances. This is happening very frequently, only that it's not very visible. Another case, another way in which WOPs are supporting before an investment program is how WOPs are, in some cases, supporting the design of an investment master plan, a design of an investment approach. Another example from a recent evaluation in Lukanga with Gelsenwasser also showed how they are directly supporting the utility to develop the capacity to develop the investment plans themselves. So this is also quite remarkable. We've seen in the past also with OPEC WOPs, the OFID WOPs, how they were also preparing the utilities to get investments. So these are also ways in which WOPs are contributing to the preparation for an investment program. And a third way is, and we are also seeing some examples, is how WOPs are supporting partners to apply for these investment funds. An example in Cubasa in Tanzania, who in partnership with Hamburg Wasser, they are applying, they've been selected to apply for the Urban Water Catalyst Initiative, or also other cases in Waterworks program where there is a dedicated working group to mobilize funds for investments. Of course, we have Anke here who can explain better, but I got this from a report that in the phase 2, there were 13 projects in the pipeline to get funding for investments for the partner utilities. So this is just a bit of, in a nutshell, how WOPs are working to prepare before investment programs and how they are coexisting and creating synergies. Can we move on to the next slide? Now, WOPs implementation, WOPs support during implementation. Again, the case of ADB remains there. And there are not many other cases where, at least from our recollection, where WOPs are formally supporting investment programs. When I say formally, I mean engage legally and in connection with the investment program through a contract with a financial institution. The closest experience that we could find was an experience between VEI in Malawi, funded by EIB and EU, an investment program, together with capacity component activity. This was actually mentioned by our colleague from EIB in the past Congress, if I'm not mistaken, and there was a reference there to how this arrangement did not work very well. For many reasons. Of course, there is a loan for investments, there is public procurement that it's required, and that needs to go through an international competitive process, which do not reconcile very well with trust-based peer-to-peer support. Why? Of course, the risk management that needs to happen for this kind of public procurement would force contracts to be very strong in terms of submission of deliverables, penalties, performance-based payments, which is, of course, not really allowing for peer partners to take their time to be responsive to the realities on the ground, which limited a lot the peer-to-peer support. So this is an experience that was very valuable at that time. A recommendation here is one more slide. A recommendation here is, at least from the interviews that happened, was keep WOPs as grants and place the emphasis on designing efficient coordinating mechanisms with IFIs to identify opportunities early on in the pipeline to align and to take advantage of the complementarities. Can we move on to the next slide? Just an example, of course, the post-implementation maintenance are really facing great challenges, as it was mentioned before, I think. And also we heard in the Congress many participants, the EU being one of them, how investment programs maintenance is really a challenge after you've made the investment, how to maintain and operate. An example from the EU WOP program is Mombasa in Tanzania. There was a great investment from the government, Tanzania, EIB and AFD, to develop a water treatment plant and distribution network and stabilization point. And now the partners, VEI, Hamburg Wasser and Finis Mundial, are supporting the capacity strengthening to operate and maintain this infrastructure. So this is one example of WOP after implementation to really secure the sustainable operation of that infrastructure. And then I think is the last slide. No, I have two more, sorry. WOPs throughout the whole cycle, WOPs that helped to identify an improvement, to prepare for an investment, and that are also supporting the implementation of the investment. We have here two examples, one ADN with KSB in Argentina, and also one from the Waterworks program in Indonesia with VEI. Next slide. Sorry. Just some very some few recommendations or some ideas on how the alliance can really work together to promote more WOPs and also stronger linkages with synergies that are already happening. One is increased visibility of results. This is something that we hear all the time. And GWOPA is really making a strong effort to try to give visibility to the kind of results that are happening on the ground. And also through an evaluation of GIZ WOPs, a recent evaluation, we've tried to apply the same methodology and identify what are the capacity impact in the short, medium, and long term. And this really needs to take a more proactive approach so that we can make visible the results. I was just having a corridor conversation with one of the persons engaged in the Catalyst Fund, and that this is really something that we need to work together on. Encourage support bilateral and multilateral donors to make systematic use of WOPs in their water programs. Those that are already using it, to deepen maybe the application of WOPs, like I said, on a more systematic level at the WOP program. Advocate towards better enabling legal frameworks that do not only allow operators to engage, but also that they can spend funding in-kind contribution, and of course, ideally, that there are legal frameworks that allow for that kind of also direct expenditure. Concerted initiatives to secure strong coordination between IFIs and WOP actors. This is something that really is becoming very, I would say, relevant to engage into, because we've been somehow in the past rejected, and now we are invited as WOP actors to really engage in this kind of communication, which is a big change. Also, a last point, explore possibilities for thematic operational investment funds to plug into WOPs. As we know that capacity alone, it's very difficult. That leads to really organizational changes. Also on the corridor, I just talking to Anke from Waterworks. They shared that in Waterworks, they also have enabled an operational investment fund to plug into WOP. So this is also something that we could also engage more actively into. And this is the end of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Maria. Thanks so much. I think that's very, very rich. Lots of great observations. I mean, many that we've maybe been aware of floating around, but this is great to have this kind of more concrete and clear and documented. I'm noting in particular the real value of in-kind contribution, something that really came out strongly in that presentation and in the paper. And about the linkages, the many ways that WOPs link with investments at different stages of the cycle. And, the conflict sometimes in thinking about how could that be a source of funding actually for WOPs, because it's useful for these investment programs. Why can't they be funding? But then maybe this challenge with, is this compatible with the trust base? Is this put the right kind of too much pressure on the mentor? So some of these reflections and the recommendations I think are really, really valuable. Looking forward to people reviewing and comments on that. That will be coming out very shortly. This together with some of our with the results of the mapping exercise that we're also undergoing are some of the ways that we are trying to create the knowledge base around the way WOPs work and the way they can work. And so these are some of the things that we can do together going forward to help make it easier for us to learn from one another. We'd also love to hear from you. I know a lot of you mentioned documents, laws, legal things that some of you have shared, but others we would be helpful to receive a copy of those things just so we can make them available more for others, so they can be accessible for the whole group. So thanks a lot, Maria. We're going to move now then to a plenary, open discussion. Please feel free to use this discussion for questions on the tour that you may have had and not had a chance to pose, on Maria's presentation, or on any of your thoughts about how you want to take this forward at your own level, or that we can potentially take this forward as a group in any of the ways that were suggested in terms of
Feel free to pick.
exactly. And on page, if you could put slide 10 up, please. Slide 10, if you could just move that over there. I think it's coming. Then we can, yeah, how we might work together in a more concerted way towards more knowledge, what you feel is needed, what you might want to contribute in terms of advocacy efforts or events that would be helpful for us. So I'm gonna leave it there. And who would like to kick off with some inputs? Oh, for the inputs, please, if you're here in person, please put up your hand, old-fashioned way. And online, if you could just indicate with the hand online as well, and we'll try to switch back and forth online, offline.
And also just indicate the name.
And please indicate the name as you start. And I'm going to hand over to Anne Lestrade to moderate this, and I will man the chat. I will woman the chat.
Okay. Bob, no. Okay. Thank you, Franzi. Please. Yes. I don't know.
Hi, everybody. My name is Friederike Bartekamp, and here I'm working at the German utility platform. And I actually just have a technical question. It stood out to me today that France has a very, very aggressive and interesting legal framework. And so I stumbled over the fact that in these two presentations, from the one we heard earlier on the bus tour and the second presentation from Maria, there were two very different amounts of funds raised for WOPs or water-related projects mentioned. The first one was 40 million euros, and this number came from, I think, 2022. And in the second presentation, it was 28 million, and this figure was a bit older, from 2013, I think. So I'm just wondering, I try to match how a progressive legal framework might correspond to the funds that you can raise in a certain country to see the relation. And therefore, I would like to, find out how this, actually drop in funds comes about, or if it's just a very different way of calculating. That would be very interesting for me. But I don't know if Elodie is still online.
Yes, I don't know. Yeah, thank you for your question. Melody, are you still online? Because it's a question for you. Okay.
Yeah, put it in the chat. Maybe she's. Okay, I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
Thank you.
She will reply later. So maybe another question. I don't know if there is a. I don't see. Ah, Melody. Abisi is Melody.
Maybe I can answer.
Okay, great. Yes, you can.
Yes. Can you hear me?
More or less, yes.
Yes. Can you hear me? Okay. Can you hear me? C'est pas possible.
Yeah,
Pourquoi ça marche pas?
We can hear you.
Normalement, là, il y a un problème. J'ai le son.
We could take another comment, maybe.
Okay,
Hi,
Melody.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Go ahead. Go ahead. And if, okay, we don't hear you, Melody.
Okay. Non, bah, désolée.
So, no,
Okay.
maybe you can.
So yeah, it's a question for me. Actually, my data is only. Yes, you hear me? Okay. So yeah, you can't hear me?
It depends.
I don't know why.
Continue,
Yes.
Okay, I'm writing in the chat.
Continue and.
Why don't you try?
Okay, maybe. Well, okay, another question, if you have. Okay, Marion.
Yes, thank you. I also have a question related to the numbers that you had in your presentation, Maria. Because there was an amount of money mentioned for the Netherlands.
Yeah, not.
Yes.
Okay, I'm answering. I'm writing in the chat. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think that the budget you mentioned for the Netherlands is only the waterworks budget, which is an impressive budget. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed, it is not taking into consideration the water authorities.
Yes, I would recommend that you include
of course.
the Blue Deal, and maybe this applies to other countries as well. That it's interesting not only to look at the drinking water programs, but also the integrated water resource management.
Yeah.
And actually, I was talking a little bit with my neighbor Frank from Wereldwaternet, and the idea popped up in our minds: is there a benchmark of what we do on WOPs? And if not, that might be interesting for GWOPA to pick up. Also because making more transparent what we're doing, and not only what we're investing, but also what we are achieving with that in terms of results, making that more transparent might actually positively contribute to the discussion about running these WOPs. So that would be our suggestion for now.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other question in the room? Maybe I don't see the online participants. So, Julie, maybe there is some raised hand online or here.
Yeah.
No.
Let's see.
Well, okay, Siemens, and we will take.
My driver after all these presentations and the tour around on the hop-on, hop-off bus with Francisca gave me a lot of energy. I saw the passion and the drive and the eagerness to work towards operator partnerships in all modalities, in all formats, in all ways, with all constraints and with all challenges. And I have the feeling that the one thing that could make us happy, except for the snowfall outside, which we can use on the way to our drinks to have a good fight, is to find a way to move this collective power towards those that might have an option to resolve some of the challenges. And what I appreciated in Marion's story is that she came with a few collective arguments to say why WOPs are so very crucial. Delegated management, grassroots level, addressing climate change problems that are not being resolved at national, let alone regional level. Migration on international level is an agenda point. We have to comfort the political sceneries that we are seeing all over Europe. And we have to mobilize the energy in spite of all good thinking to make them sensitive to our proposal. And I think a proposition for a water operator partnership at European level with 11 European partners together is a unique story for the EU to hear how much interest there is to work. And we are not the most expensive experts. So there is also the proposition that it is value for money. And my intention would be to go out from here with a kind of collective plan to say, how will we move this forward and bring it under the attention of the European Union? Let alone the EU WOP story as it is in phase 2. That's okay, but maybe there is more.
Can I ask for clarity? But yeah, just for clarity about that, Simon. So you're talking about So rather than thinking about it at national levels within Europe, you really want to focus on the Commission in terms of getting financial support for WOPs, further financial support. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I would just say, and we can talk about this a little bit more tomorrow during the EU WOP phase 2. But we have a very, very strong WOP advocate in the Commission, who's very keen on that, and who I think is giving a lot of what they have on hand towards the WOP practice. But there are also other mechanisms also around that, for example, that aren't in within the hands of the Commission. For example, there's a neighborhood program that might provide funds for WOPs to other countries that are not currently funded by the EU WOP program mechanisms, or for example, to those in Southeast Europe or in North Africa, these kinds of things. So also thinking we can also consider some of these other ways, because I think we've got some good support there already from the Commission, and we can think about to clarify.
Siemens, maybe I'm wrong, but I also heard from your speech that and I think it could be a good idea to work together about like a storytelling for WOPs, and also with collective arguments, and not only in terms of technical partnership, but tackling many issues as climate change or migration, I think. So, and it could also be very relevant to convince maybe more politicians, and to be aware of the importance of these partnerships, right?
Yes, I agree with what you're saying. I know that the sentiment in Europe is not in favor of our activities. So we have to be more creative and more keeping ourselves stronghold on, for example, showcasing the results of our partnerships. And that can be in many ways. I'm just looking to Maria, who has been studying for many years the impact of water operator partnerships, how you can quantify that. Also, the relationship with investments, I think we have to make it more clear that investment programs cannot do without technical assistance. And the proof, in spite of all our beliefs, is not yet on the paper. So that needs to be also more storytelling-wise, convincing arguments to donors and development banks. And I think many of our utilities, they have an opportunity to do something, but to finance everything on what they want to do is maybe a little bit too much. So I'm not asking for a grant arrangement, but for a co-financing system. And whatever mechanisms there are, I would like to tap on the energy that is being shared here in this meeting, which I think is valuable. 11 European countries together, well, 10 maybe plus Wales. No. How is it with Wales? Oh, okay. No, then we have 11 of them. So, no, we are strong enough. Okay. We count you full.
Switzerland as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, yeah. So, but it's a powerful proposition, I think. So I would also propose that we make a group photo here and make sure that we have the national flags on top of our heads so that we use the power of this momentum.
Okay.
Maybe we could hear if others, if this resonates.
Yes, Lucas.
Maybe a short comment to add on that. I think this collection of success stories, it could also help us, for example, in Switzerland, because we are kind of at the start of these journeys of WOPs to convince other water utilities, wastewater utilities to come on this journey together.
Absolutely. Any other comment on that point? Yes, Claudia.
Yeah, I think it's good what Siemens said, but we need also more operators. Like in Switzerland, we need more operators and utilities on board. I mean, in the Netherlands, it's super. And therefore, I think we need somehow to address the CEO level, so the upper management. So maybe if we look for events, it would be good to look for where are the CEOs where are they meeting typically, and so there bring up and bring up this topic and to get engaged, and there then come up with the storytelling would be of course also useful for the CEOs and for the management. And what is really important for the utilities is now the lack of human resources and the demography. And so they all look for young people and they all look for young professionals. And so they need and to make clear that that can be is a very attractive argument for the utilities to get also good young people on board. And so, yeah, would be good to, I don't know, to invite a few more CEOs or to bring that topic to already existing formats. I don't know what is better, to arrange an event just for that, for example, in Brussels, and to invite the CEOs, maybe in front of the commission. That is, of course, attractive then. If the CEOs are invited, then they might also come. Or to go to existing conferences where they anyway are and place this topic more prominently. I don't know what is a better way, but I think that's really important. Also, that then the CEO meet each other and share their stories in the coffee breaks and so on. So that's also, yeah. And therefore, we need anyway these stories. And I totally agree. The stories also from staff from European utilities that also have been empowered through going abroad, through learning. And I mean, we are always saying we are learning also in this international project, but to document that better. What are we learning? What is our staff really learning from these projects? And so to show that in stories, or probably difficult to show that in cash, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Claudia. And I think there are meetings where utility CEOs meet, like at utility leaders fora and things like that. But also what we've organized before, it might also be nice to share with the group that we've also organized like an exchange visit between Germany and the Netherlands, where the CEO of the Dutch utility was there and people from DJS, but also from BMZ and German Water Partnership and Hamburg were there. The director of Hamburg was there to share experiences and I think in general CEOs of the Dutch utilities are always willing to share with other CEOs why they are involved in WOPs. So if anybody would like to arrange something like a visit, then we can arrange that.
Emma?
This one, yeah. No, I don't know. I think during the coffee breaks with a couple of people, we had some exchange, and also the conversation in the room is like, what are the really, one of the critical things is to really showcase and show clear benefits for utilities to engage the partnership. So maybe opportunity for this group to kind of like everyone takes a mic and say like what is it they see is a clear benefits to utilities, so that if we have that a bit of story communication material sort of produced for everyone to share with their utilities, these are A, B, C, D area that could be communicated with utilities to say that this is the clear benefits for you to engage. So maybe that would really also help to mitigate some of the political risk, to also help to utility senior management to say yes, we can actually engage in this partnership because clearly there are benefits, and in the international experience we have seen these improvements here there. Maybe something around this line will be also useful. This group can achieve collectively.
And just concretely, what does it mean? It means that we can ask,
all participants maybe to give an example of a good story?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we are talking and with, for example, sorry, I forgot your name. She was telling from the, yeah, she was telling about that there could be really sort of HR policy to attract, talent or retain people to work for the utilities. And someone else saying some other stories that could be really important. Climate change came out as one element, migration. So we need to can we maybe brainstorm a little bit to identify what other, benefits for utilities potentially we can actually highlight and say it, tell it.
Mark?
Yeah, I'll just add to that. As one of the directors in Welsh Water, one of the benefits he sees is staff development. I mean, the amount that he'd spend on training courses to improve project management, leadership, stakeholder engagement, which they're all able to do at a different level in different country, is just, that's one of the benefits he sees. But how to quantify that? We should be able to quantify that monetarily by how much it would cost to send these people on training. So that's one bit where we can actually get something certain against. And then you've got the human resources side, but how do you quantify that? Also within this program, like for developing the poster for last May's presentation here, we are our graduate intake to develop that project or develop the poster on that. So it gives them different ways of engaging on how to present things to a different audience. So there are lots of different benefits which we can show internally, not just for our other partner in Uganda, for example. And it is trying to make these what is in it for our water company at that directorship level or at the board level, as well as what the benefit is for wider social side. Thanks.
Rita, you raised your hand. No?
Yeah, I did. Hello. Sorry, I'm from Budapest Waterworks again. This is a completely different track. But I want to say, and maybe I'm really backing up the wrong tree. But considering resources and returning to a question that I think came up in many of the talks from the different countries was the funding, and I was just wondering whether it's been already investigated if we can involve more private funding, considering like larger companies and their CSR strategies that could support, for example, these kind of activities. I mean, WOPs operations.
Okay, any other? Mario? No? Yes, Mario?
Well, I was having a really interesting conversation with Claudio during the coffee break. Claudio, I'm sure you remember, because we said, look, if you really want to get more out of this GWOPA alliance, what possibilities are there to join forces, not only in addressing politics and making narratives and improving communication about the WOPs, but also in the actual implementation of the WOPs? And the first thing that you would need to do that is know who's doing what and where. Not from the focus of ourselves as mentor or donor countries, but with the focus on the countries where you are running WOPs. For instance, if you're having a WOP in Tanzania, which other parties, which other countries are active in Tanzania having WOPs there, and how can you join forces there? So I'm still struggling to find out what that would mean practically, but maybe it starts with an inventory. I don't know, maybe it has already been done. I see you nodding, Maria, but well, maybe somebody can reflect on this from GWOPA organization.
Thanks, Marion. I like the direction of all of that. I mean, thinking about where we can go together in all of this. And it's true that there are certain resources and things that we do that are maybe not all common knowledge, or and that's also part a communication shortcoming in some regards. We do keep a global WOPs database that depends very much on our like member input, partner input. So part of our work, because WOPs are happening at all these different levels, collecting this data is very takes some effort. And so there's, you know, it's a constant work, even for getting stuff like around what the enabling frameworks are. There's a lot of follow-up involved, but we do have a global database on WOPs where they're happening, and that is available online. But if you ever have trouble accessing the full information, then we can be reached about it, and it's fully open source data. This is in addition to the other knowledge kinds of tools that we have around how WOPs are working in different places. We also work with platforms, facilitators in the Global South in different regions that support a lot on the communications, the monitoring around WOPs at those different levels, in addition to all the different programs that are going on. So it's a real kind of, let's say, eclectic mosaic of inputs and sources. There's no one model because it's an alliance with different actors, but we do try to keep that, and that's part of our role, is trying to kind of keep on top of how WOPs are working, where they're working well, learning from that, and then feeding it, you know, back out there to guide better practice. So this is why we, you know, we're a member organization in the sense that we count on these inputs from everyone, and we think that we can, if we work together, then we can get more done collectively, because we can learn from one another. So this conversation is going in that direction, hopefully. Please.
Yes. My name is Anton. I'm from the Netherlands, working with both Blue Deal and Waterworks. If I try to kind of conclude what I took from especially from the hop on hop off thing, is that our first advocacy target is our own organization, is our own utility. Our own CEO of the utility, or the political arena the CEO is operating in. So they have to be convinced that they have to enable us to do the work, basically. So maybe we should create momentum to really address our arguments to them. And then maybe at European level, it would be nice maybe to think of cooperation with branch organizations like Euro or Aqua Publica, in which the utilities themselves get together, and maybe we should address our issue there first, build momentum there, and from them step up to the Commission and ask for cooperation at that level.
And again, just to be maybe more concrete, do you have any idea how to create this momentum to readdress?
Yeah. I can give an example of what I really have been seeing being very influential at European level. Is you have all these things like the mayors for climate change, from I don't know, not for climate change, mayors against climate change. Yeah. Maybe we can create something like utility CEOs for, or maybe also for climate change or against climate change. Climate adaptation, yes. So maybe we should organize our own organizations first, and make the argument with them towards the European Commission for cooperation. And maybe a network in which we get our CEOs together and build a joint advocacy with them. I believe can be very influential. And then I think the first important thing is that every of us get their own resources from their own utility to finance all these in-kind contributions you need for co-financing from, for example, from European Commission. But I think all of the donors we try to address or to get funding from, most of them ask for co-financing. So you need your own resources in place, and that needs to be done by your own CEO of your own utility.
Okay, so if we go back to this question, so maybe find, the accurate event, maybe also to create this momentum. So events, okay, and are at the national level, but also at the international level, maybe at European level, at least. and also it means that advocacy and knowledge, so how to build some yes, collective narrative could be useful for everyone, because even if we have different context, but we saw and that we have some similar issues and commitments. So it could be interesting to have this kind of collective strategy also.
Maybe one suggestion, just a practical one, kind of bringing the CEOs of our utilities together and making the argument towards them. Maybe it could also be part of the EU WOP program. So why don't we ask finance from the EU to organize this kind of CEO gathering? I think the European Commission is really interested in organizing this type of advocacy events.
Why not? I think it's not an easy task.
I'm working with Waterworks, for example, and Anke already was mentioning one thing we did a lot. A lot of the utilities that are here, like from Finland, for example, but also from Germany, we organized visits in which the Dutch utilities exchange with the German or the Finnish utilities. And I think that has been very influential. Just to understand and also think of what are solutions to have your own resources for this type of programming from the utility in place. That has been, so yeah, it can be visits, exchange visits, it can be, well, there are many ways to do it, but I think it's not really difficult to organize.
Okay, I see a raised hand. It's Milo. Milo?
Yeah, yes, hello, good afternoon. Milo from Acqua Pubblica Europea, a network of around 70 public water and sanitation utilities across Europe, including several of the utilities that are attending this meeting today. And it's a really pity not being there, not with you in Bonn, because it's a super interesting meeting. And I really think that the mapping you have been doing in the first part of the meeting is essential then to build an advocacy action on the European level. Was really needed, and congratulations on your work so far. Thanks to Anton then to mentioning our organization, and we of course will be more than happy to join forces again with you and with Ray on this advocacy effort at the European level. Let me just say that add to what Anton was saying. I think that Anton's idea to use also the WOP enabler and WOP facility as a tool to convene CEO of water utilities is a good idea. But maybe I would like to add that the initiative to develop a narrative addressing CEOs to a bit raise their attention about the potentiality of WOPs should go together, I mean, at the same time also with the advocacy action towards the European Union to ensure funding for WOP. Because, but speaking on based on personal experience, I mean, attracting the interest and the time of water CEOs is not an easy task in general. And for the reason that were raised by many of the speakers during the first part of the meeting, I mean, the funding issue is a key problem. If you go to a CEO and say, well, look, WOP is full of nice opportunities and there are concrete benefits for water utilities to join a WOP, then the CEO will say, okay, but how do I finance that? How do I allocate money to pay for my staff cost when this is possible? Or when this isn't possible, how do I cover this staff cost? How I ensure stable financing in order to develop a skilled staff within my utility that can run this kind of operation on the long term, as the representative from SSE was saying. These are the key issues that a CEO would probably mention. And if you go to him or to her, then with some stable financing from international organization, this can help to convince the CEO about the need, I mean, and the opportunity to engage more in WOP. So I think the two things should go in the same, I mean, happening a bit at the same time and reinforcing each other, because without the funding available and without removing some legal restrictions at the national level, it's not so easy to convince the CEO. At least, I mean, I share here what I learned in this year of experiences regarding international cooperation and capacity development project. So, and again, to conclude, I think that what came out from this morning, the first part of the meeting, is really, really relevant in advocacy action towards the European Union, because it shows that maybe with the exception of France and partially of the Netherlands, then it shows that the problems are very, very common all across Europe, and which makes a case for an added value of EU intervention and support of WOPs, because it's not just for the need of one country, but it's a shared need, a shared problem. Thanks.
So thank you, Milo. I see David Boyce. David?
Voila. I hope you can hear me.
Absolutely.
First of all, congratulations, Anne, Julie, Osa, all the GWOPA staff, partners, and allies. I think today shows the steady progress, the solid work, and points to more work in the weeks and months to come. I'm David Boyes. I represent Public Services International, a global alliance of trade unions. Lix Key is also here representing the workers in the Netherlands, FNV, and we're really thrilled with what we've seen today. I think the impact both from mentor and mentees on staff skills, motivation, retention is possibly one of the most difficult areas for WOPs to track, to monitor, to work on, but also one of the most important. I know that involving the unions in the WOPs remains a challenge, and there are structural and political reasons for that. But perhaps we should also design a survey from staff perspective for use in WOPs. If we want to gather that information, it seems to me we need to actually figure out how to speak to the people impacted and involved. Just an aside for people, I really don't like the expression human resources or HR. It's a very business or corporate approach to staff or personnel, is quite dehumanizing. So if we can talk about staff management, personnel, things like that, rather than human resources, I'd really appreciate that. Two other quick points. Climate adaptation funding might actually grow. How could we access it? I think this is going to be a whole other area of work, whether it's worth opening that file, whether it's worth conducting the advocacy vis-a-vis the various holders of those funds to demonstrate that the work of GWOPA and WOPs is actually good value, good results. And clearly running throughout this is understanding the different political roles of the actors, of utility leaders, of mayors, of provincial or state governors, national governments, and the international system. This is quite complex. It's been a permanent fixture of the water and sanitation sector, and it's one that requires us to be extremely flexible and adaptive. As, for example, working with United Cities and local governments, they have the full spectrum of the full political spectrum amongst their members. And again, there's no one size fits all, but I do think being able to demonstrate both technical, financial, but also political reasons why these water partnerships are actually really important for them. Thanks very much.
Thank you, David. And just a kind remember that our last enablers dialogue was focused on staff issue and not HR issue. So another comment, question, yes, Rosa. So
thank you so much. I really enjoy this discussion. Gives me lots of good ideas, and I want to reiterate some points which I really like. I really like this idea to do advocacy with the Majors for Climate Adaptation Alliance. Why do I like this? Because I think it was one of the funding areas, also city partnerships. And what I learned also from the presentation is that the diversification of funding is very important. So not putting all eggs in one basket, hoping for the EU to double their program or things like that. So I think that's a really good idea. And what I experience when I do these kind of things, because it's not only municipal partnerships. We talked about bilateral portfolios. We talked about aligning with EFIs. I know, and it was just mentioned, this coordination is very complicated because you need to understand what the actor you're talking with wants. And when we're doing is, like, we have a lot of discussions about, because then they say, but we want to have a green city partnership. And then I say, well, if you do the green, you also need some kind of blue to make the color. And so sometimes it's also good to not stick on the particularities, but to take out the points from my portfolios that fit into what the other person wants and go with that. And then if you have a bit more diversified approach, then I also really like this good value, good results, because you need to have the good stories. And what I realized, what I really don't know in the WOPs is whether a WOP couldn't also, whether there are not examples where a WOP in the end saved money or raised money, as was mentioned. Because, I mean, I don't like the word human resources as well, but I'm still an economist. And if I was a CEO and someone would give me like a good example saying like, look, we did this WOP. It did cost you this and that in the beginning, but then it also leveraged this and that. And maybe during the WOP, we, I don't know, did a better cost recuperation model. Or became more efficient, that you and your overall organization became more efficient saving money, like with that kind of economical calculation or like practice examples like that, then you can also overcome certain barriers to people which may not be convinced by pure quality arguments. So thank you very much for the discussions, giving me this good idea, because I'm actually just repeating and highlighting the good examples that you gave. So, and I completely agree. Thank you.
Yes, we have to close up, and maybe another comment or question. I don't want to frustrate anyone. So I don't know, online, I don't see any raised hand online. Not okay, no here. So we can wrap up. I don't know, to be honest, I don't know how we can wrap up. Or this. So maybe Osa?
No, please.
Okay. Okay, now just
I will also say
no, just a few words, and I let Julie and Osa good. But first of all, maybe because in my former life, I was a deputy mayor of Paris in charge of water policy and in charge of municipalize the water company. I'm very aware of the political issue. So thank you, Marion, to raise this point, because I think, of course, it's quite difficult for us to address this issue here, but I think it's a key one, and very often forgotten, because we don't know how to address. But it's a key issue. That's why I think advocacy, commitment, strategy need also to address this political target. So we have to keep that in mind. And I know that, yes, sorry to forget that, of course, it was raised by Spanish colleagues. And I know that it's a very relevant. So it was my first point. And the second one is we have a lot of good stories, and I don't know how we can, design and with showcase that. But I'm sure that we can. And just on my side, I will complete the initial outputs of the survey with all these very interesting insights given today. And I think that I will go back to you also, maybe to ask some question. And please, I would like to encourage you also, for those who didn't submit, maybe to reply and to share any documents, relevant reports, document could be useful to share within us. So. We will. I'm pretty sure that we will find out the way to continue to have this kind of exchanges and to build a strategy to scale up WOPs. I don't know. Julie,
Thanks. Just a final, just to add quickly to what Anna said. I think that you've given basically the next steps that we're talking about. There's a lot of ideas for how we can move forward together. I just want to point. So one thing is looking at the things that can go towards the Commission and the EU WOP Phase 2. Tomorrow, it's great that most of you will be joining for that discussion, so please feel free to be contributing ideas there. I mean, there are things that can be changed and things that can't, and all sorts of things, but the session is open to hearing all sorts of kind of inputs. But I also want to bring, because I do think that the point that was made in a few cases that about diversification and the need for different sources, so that we're not focusing on one particular source of funds, but we're also looking at how we can strengthen national, regional mechanisms that allow us to be able to provide some in-kind funding. So looking at these examples that are provided in different places, coming up with a good deal like that, is in the Netherlands, where there's co-financing, where there's a little bit more stability that puts us, protects us somewhat from the political, changes that might happen in certain places where we become very dependent on one source of funding or one type of political support than another. So just thinking about those, keeping that thinking alive as well as we move forward. And thanks, and passing over to Åsa.
Well, thank you really very much, everyone. I'd like to echo what Simon said. I think after that hop on, hop off bus, I certainly, and I hope, and I think most of us felt really energized, even though it was there was a lot of stops by that bus, but the way you heard about everything going on, across Europe was really inspiring. And I think, of course, we are a self-select group who've chosen to be in this meeting, but everyone who was giving their 5 minutes reflection and sharing was full of, wanting to do more. I mean, that you hear, and then there's constraints like the funding and all the things we've heard. Moving forward, indeed, Anne, is supporting the GWOPA Secretariat and will come up with an outcome document from this meeting. And I think we could make some really nice, we've talked a little bit about it, pages or whatever for each stop of the bus, and make sure that that's enriched with a little bit of time, with more links and background, links to it, to supplement, let's say, the 5 minutes without asking for too much from you. I mean, this is not going to be a published document, but just a little bit richer to share. In terms of the conversation, the last hour or 45 minutes that we had, I started putting it in these pillars, and maybe that doesn't work, but that's what we put out there. knowledge, advocacy, and events. And I would like our team in the GWOPA Secretariat to put that together and sort of present it back to you. Maybe, I mean, of course, they all cut over, and where is it? Where is it an advocacy? Where is an event? But I mean, in general, you know, just brief summary in knowledge, we heard, for example, and I'm not going to be exhaustive at all. We're going to close now, but successful case studies such as retaining staff. We need benchmarking. We need the impact data. We need to know what is the impact when there's a more enabling legal environment, such as in France or not. What does it mean in a more evidence-based kind of narrative? Does a WOP save or raise money? What's some of the harder economic arguments around this? Inspiring stories. Should we do some surveys from staff themselves? We need to do a bit more mapping. Are we maximizing the synergies of some of us here today at country level? So, I mean, these are kind of knowledge pieces that I see us wanting to put together, you know, in the group here. So what type of information do we collect to make a more even stronger narrative, right? So then comes the advocacy. Who is our audience? I mean, some of us are working in different spheres, so we're hearing of the CEOs of utilities, politicians in several European countries, directly at the Commission, but we also want to diversify the funding. So I think we can unpack that a little bit more. And within our messages, you know, we heard in the hop-on bus stop from several countries the need also to make sure that we use a narrative that it's a two-way learning. It's not only the learning from the utilities that are in the enablers. So I think unpacking a little bit the most convincing narrative along with the new sets of knowledge that we need to consolidate. And you know, the climate area is another one. In terms of events, maybe this is the easiest part. You know, where can we share and look at what are some of the strategic events for 2024. The GWOPA Secretariat is going to be doing that anyway next week in our steering committee meeting. And where do we put some of our efforts and eggs in that basket on some of the things we've been discussing here? And then on top of that, do we want to think of creating some specific tailor-made events, and how would that look like, and what would they be? I mean, one idea was for CEOs of certain utilities, like to create events. So let us collect some of these ideas and put them a little bit in some kind of visual, so that maybe that will inspire even more concrete ideas to take it forward. Now, one thing that maybe I'm left a little bit, you know, that I think would be useful, especially for those that are coming back tomorrow and maybe over the drink, and, you know, to think through is the group here is an organic, loose interest. I mean, we're really happy that it's getting even bigger than the first enabling dialogue, and, you know, also more geographically diverse, but it's not a task force. So, you know, we cannot say thank you. We have an action plan. These 10 countries are coming back in 1 month with the new survey from staff. Like, we're not in that mode at the moment. So I think one question for us in the GWOPA Secretariat is, what should we be taking on as a priority in continuing to, can't find the right, servicing or supporting, you know, this work? And what are some areas that someone else naturally would take a lead? I mean, the CEOs of utilities event may not be on the GWOPA Secretariat's work plan immediately. It's not our immediate constituency. Is it somebody else, just as an example? So I think these are some things to think through in how we want to move forward. And also, just to say, I mean, that I opened with, you know, you as partners is really key group for us in GWOPA, and we just completed our midterm review, and it's also come out as a very strong recommendation that we need to nurture and really, and I think this is just a testament to the energy and the possibilities within that. So we are very committed to carving out our part of the work, but how do we make this sort of effective moving forward? And then my last point would just be that I suggest we we will send out a quick little, not a survey, a quick feedback of the event today that should just take you a few minutes to complete, because it will be very useful also to think through how do you want the fourth dialogue to be. I'm assuming probably we want to facilitate one again. Is this the right format, the length, etc.? Such feedback is always helpful, but not to take the time, right now to hear about that. But we would love to hear from the Secretariat how we best engage you, and if this is the most, inspiring and effective way to do that. So I think I'll just close there. Again, thanks to everyone. Big thanks also to everyone online. We know how difficult it sometimes is to just continue engaging for several hours. So really, really appreciative of that. And yeah, thanks, of course, again to our team for kicking off the new year with this event. So yeah, thanks. Hope that some of you can join us for, it's not part of the program. It's not an official reception or anything. We just wanted to offer for those who are not quite done with the evening, we can have a drink together. Otherwise, I think most of you, we will meet again tomorrow for the second day of the European WOPs Days. For those of you that are not with us tomorrow, thanks very much, and we'll stay in touch. Yeah, thank you.
Bye.